It is 6:30. I'm calling the October 20th, 2020 special planning board meeting to order. We have to take an audible roll call, so we'll start there. Janice Gomes.
Here.
Amanda Souza.
Here.
Christine Shea.
Here.
Rosemary Eva.
Here.
Sue Hardy.
Here.
Susan Gill, present. Adam Raposa.
Here.
Dave Perry.
Here.
Peter Bramonti.
Here.
Great. And then we have Travis DaCosta here as solicitor. And we have Tara and Jennifer here, but I don't see Rick Rogers. Hopefully he'll show up from DPW. And Steer was excused from this meeting. So, okay. So the first item on the agenda is Administrative Officer Report for the September AO. Everybody got a copy of that? I don't know if there's any questions, or Jennifer, there first, anything you want to specifically go over?
If anyone has any questions, but the two things I think I wanted to mention was Tiverton Heights, the 275 unit master plan approval. They actually were denied by DEM. And so I got a denial letter. I think Stu got one and Sue did too. So we'll have to see. They're in their last year of extensions. They can't get an extension after next June. So I don't know if they'll be able to get a DEM permit by then. We'll see. The other thing is that Northborough, which is Bayview, it's the 52 condos or 50 condos on Main Road. They submitted a request to me to do a minor change, approving the two different lots to combine it into one. And I submitted them a letter saying that I don't think it's a minor subdivision, minor approval. And I listed all the reasons, and I think you got a copy of the letter that I sent him back. And so he is actually appealing to the zoning board, that decision. And they appealed your extension previously, that was overturned, but so I think in November, they're going to be hearing that. So things I wanted to keep you up to date.
Okay.
I thought it was very interesting that they changed attorneys since we saw them.
Yes.
Oh, right. Right.
And as far as the zoning, do we know for sure that it's going to be on the zoning board's agenda? Because they had technical difficulties at last month's, so they have a rather long agenda. At the high school, they lost the power in the north end, so maybe November, maybe December, I don't know.
Might be, yes. I think there's 7 items. So
wow.
I get to it, yeah.
I just had a couple of questions about a couple of items. One is on the bottom of the second page. Is that where it is? Yeah. I just need for clarification for the decision on Indian Rock Farm.
Yes.
That was an environmental review statement, so I was confused that you had that a decision and a plan would be recorded. Something changed. We don't record environmental review statements. And they just go to the zoning board.
Zoning board.
Or they go to the building office. We write it up, and then.
You're right.
Right. We don't record the decision.
Yeah, you don't record it.
We record decisions or plans for environmental review statements. I had to look it up to make sure I wasn't misremembering something. So,
yes.
And then the other question I just had was about. Where was it? 1631 Fish Road. Oh, that's like about halfway down on the last page.
Yes.
I noticed like, yeah, that place had been really emptied out. I thought it was for sale. So they are planning to go through with that whole plan. Okay. So the thing, I don't know if it's in the file or the history of it. I believe the way it was set up was because it was referred to us by the zoning board to review the stormwater. I believe it's in part of the write-up that then Steer would be consulted to do site inspections and reviews during the course of that, their, I guess their construction or whatever for the infrastructure for that. So I didn't know if that got followed. I just want to make sure that got followed through on, because basically the process got messed up and never got referred to us.
Yes.
Planning board.
I did read the zoning minutes. So yeah, it just went to zoning, never went to planning.
Right.
Um,
Right, they were misdirected. So
right.
I just wanted to follow up and make sure that Steer would be involved, that they know that. I think it's in writing. I mean, you can verify that, but make sure the building office knows that if they have a pre-construction, because you had that they had the pre-construction.
Yes, we did. Mm-hmm.
That they have to know they have to set up an escrow and that Steer will be doing site inspections and reports.
Is that the former quarry?
Well, it's that part in front. Yeah, those buildings in front. Remember
Okay.
the addition? Yeah. Oh, I thought the whole thing had been abandoned. I didn't realize it was still underway. So. Okay, those are my questions.
I have a couple questions
Sure.
also. On page 1, item number 3, Edward Bransky, Esquire,
Yes.
on the Abigail Estates.
Mhm.
Has this been back to the planning board? Is this the development that they went ahead and did the road and it wasn't inspected?
It has, well, now it's been inspected.
Right. But
I mean, it was inspected by Rick.
during the process of borings needed, I thought it was the one that hadn't been overseen by the DPW while they were constructing it.
No,
What is the amount that they settled on?
I believe it was looked at by Rick.
Rick said he did do site inspections.
Oh, during the process of laying the
Yeah.
asphalt?
Yeah, when he comes, I need to find out for sure. But I think of the process was that it just a formal pre-construction meeting was never done and
Okay.
set up with Steer, but Rick said he had been doing inspections.
How much did they arrive at for their cost estimate?
You
And
know,
they paid it.
I don't have that on hand right now.
I mean, I hate to be asking so many questions, but do we hold that money in?
But
we
we have
do.
a surety. We have a surety.
All right,
Yeah, we do.
just to make it clear.
Yeah. Well, the reason why this is coming up is because they probably will be asking for a release of the surety eventually, soon, relatively soon. So that's why.
I'm a little unclear on page 2 on the Longplex item number 6.
Yes.
Who did the expedited development plan review? Was
We
that
did.
It was, yeah, in the past you did.
Mary, that was Mark. That was Mark Russo.
Mark Russo? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
My
that's
memory's
not.
good.
Yeah.
That's ancient times.
Yeah.
It is. And yeah, it happened in the past.
Good.
So there is something that I want to bring up
Okay.
that is not explicitly on the agenda, so we can't talk about it that much, but I did want to bring it up because Chris Cotta asked me to bring it up. You know, you have planning board fees, and then you have an escrow account or a certain amount to be given to pay for Steer engineering. And he was telling me that he feels that that those numbers are capped, that some of the projects have the Steer engineering has done more than what was voted on by the town council, and he's probably going to be looking into that. So he wanted me to pass that on.
I don't know what you mean by what the town council decided.
Yeah, so the town council votes on two things, right? The fees and
Right.
escrow account.
Right.
And he feels that the escrow account amounts that the applicant shouldn't exceed those without going to the town council for additional money. So
Well, who would go to the council?
up later.
If he's using Steer Engineering as a town engineer, that's one pot of money, but our escrow is supposed to cover what he's doing for the individual products. Am I correct?
Correct.
I mean, I think that's the important part of what's done by a pre-construction meeting. And I know they haven't all been able to be, I don't know, some of them are slipping through the cracks. And I think that's when it gets very clearly defined what they're directed to do and not do. So if they're doing things above and beyond what they should be doing, that's why it should be very clear at pre-construction meetings that they're only there to do infrastructure, stormwater, erosion control, determine how much, because then it's both parties are agreeing to what the limits are, and it is explained to them how the whole escrow situation works. So if that somehow pre-construction meetings don't happen, then that's when developers notoriously come back and complain about their steer bills. They do. They all do. They all do. And I don't know what to do about it. It's an ongoing issue. I don't know if any other engineering firm does it for less, and that's something that can be discussed at another, when
Right. It'll be a future agenda item. Yeah.
there is a history to this. But I think part of it is pre-construction meetings. That's why they're really important. So, were you supposed to give Chris some kind of feedback?
No, because it's not on the agenda, but I just want to give you a heads up
Okay,
to pass that on.
good to know. Always something. Okay, anybody have any other questions about the AO report? Okay, well, moving right along. I'm gonna try and hopefully within, half an hour, get all these other items knocked off so we can go on to our meeting. So the approval of minutes, item 2 is Tiverton Planning Board, approval of minutes, October 6, 2020 draft. I believe that's still in the works. So item B is solar panel decommissioning bond extension, discussion and possible vote. Wingover solar farm expires February 18th, 2021. So I have Jennifer, if you want to just kind of, I guess.
Sure. So the decommissioning bonds, obviously they're supposed to be at least 20 years because you're not going to decommission it until at least 20, 25, 30 years. And this bond that was approved by the planning board expires in February. So we talked about Cook had an issue previously. Expired sooner, but so I wanted to let the board know and what you want to do about it. You want to go and negotiate a new 20-year bond, or what would you like?
Well, Travis, that's what my question was. Do you know, has a new decommissioning bond been drafted for the Cook Farm?
So yeah, I've been working with Cook Farm. I did get a new bond from Greg just a couple of days ago. The bond, however, and I was just talking to Jen this morning about it, the bond was only for 1 year.
Right.
And I was kind of confused because I know that the board had mentioned that everyone was under the impression that it was going to be 20 years before getting the bond from Greg. He indicated that it was going to be 20 years. And then I looked at the bond documents. It's only for 1 year. That's renewable every year. I know that's not the board's understanding and hasn't been the town's understanding. And we're a little concerned about it potentially lapsing 19 times. I was kind of telling Jen. So it's something that I'm going to be reaching out to Greg probably after this meeting in an email to talk to him about. But right now, regarding Cook. We're at least good through October 2021, but it's a 1-year bond. That's what they gave me.
Are they not willing to do a lifetime bond?
That, I don't think so. My initial conversation before I got the documents from Greg was that he was under the impression that it had to be 20 years. And I said, okay, great. Send it over to me so I can take a look at it. And then when I reviewed it, it wasn't 20 years.
Do you have
And
any-
now we have, they haven't gotten a CO from Bill,
Right,
so we can kind of stop it with the CO, but after the CO is given,
right. That's our leverage.
come back, you know?
So let me,
That's our leverage. And I think that was I mean, I don't even know if it's a 20-year bond. It would be for, the lifetime of the solar array function. So whether that's 20 years or 30 years or 25 years or even 10 years,
it's not one.
it's not one. And when we talk about the lifetime, and then both times they've presented these documents with 1 year, and both times our solicitors are the ones that review these, agreed to them. So we accepted them. So I don't know how they're done in other communities. I don't know if that would help you to find out if other communities can do it.
Well, Jen,
They just seem to drag their heels on it.
so Jen, just wanted to give a little bit of insight, not to get too much into Cook. It's not on the agenda tonight, but give some insight on something you'd mentioned earlier today about Foster and the 20-year bond.
Yeah.
being kind of
Yeah,
expensive.
so there was a large solar development, about 20 acres of solar panels, and they had over $100,000 for decommissioning. And they had told me that told the planning board that the interest rate for a 20-year bond would be a lot of money. So they had asked, is it possible that we can just give cash to the town to hold on to for 20 years? And the town agreed. And they said that that was less expensive than holding a bond for 20 years.
No, I don't
So
know.
I don't know if that's an issue.
Yeah, we don't know if that's what's going on. But I know that my initial conversation again with Greg was that it was going to be 20 years. That was his understanding. And that's not what the documents say.
Well, if they're willing to do a cash interest-bearing account for that amount, I mean, I think administratively accepted. Cash is safer anyway than a bond, I would think.
Had Amoresco already requested to pay that bond with cash? Do I remember them asking specifically to pay that with cash?
Yeah, they may have said they were going to decide. Yeah, I think.
Oh, okay.
Investor.
I know they had asked us if it was acceptable to pay with cash, and our consensus was, yeah, you can pay with whatever you want.
Right.
When they had asked the first time.
Right. I can't remember if that old ordinance spells it out specifically if it had to be a bond or if it said cash or a bond.
It might
I remember
say,
that being discussed with them. I just don't remember on what platform we were talking about it with.
Yeah, that does ring a bell.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're willing to propose cash to put into an interest-bearing account with some kind of document to, just support that, then that's probably preferable, but it should be there for the lifetime of the solar, because you don't want it to go for 20 years, and then what if it goes for 25 years, and then...
right, but you can hold on to the cash. Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's what I figure. The odds are, these things are going to come full circle long after we're here. So, or most of us, so who's going to be around to remember to follow through on this, and how is it going to work is really the issue. I mean, I think.
Well, I'm wondering if your regulations do say surety.
Well, it's written as a decommissioning surety, but it might have been written up as either cash or bond. I don't know if I still have it. Let's see.
Out in front of me, Let me see here.
It would be the old.
Right. I still have it. Must have pulled it out. Well,
Jennifer, may I just ask what brought up this disconnect in the first place?
I wasn't here
Yeah.
when it happened, but it was, it came up that we noticed the decommissioning bonds only had a year expiration. It did say to be extended year to year, but I would have a problem with that.
No, absolutely. I was
Right.
just curious, is there any guidance in the enabling legislation that sets sort of parameters that would be useful to look at beyond our ordinance?
Susan or whoever handles the inviting panelists in, Marcelo is
Okay, I can
waiting
do it.
entered in.
Oh, Jan and Rick is here too.
I can't put my hands on the old solar ordinance.
Is Mike a phone number?
Mike, if
I'm
you,
here.
Oh, you're here.
So,
I'm here by phone. I will be in a ability to get a visual. Not that you want to see my face about 15 minutes.
all right. Yeah, I don't know how to sort this out. We do have time, but yeah, with Cook Farm, I mean, they're going to be looking for their CO very soon, right?
Right.
And did theirs, well, so yeah, and theirs expired, but they got a renewal for 1 year.
yeah, right now it's good for 1 year, but it's just not consistent with the terms that you had mentioned at the last meeting and that Greg had confirmed as well.
Right. I'm still nervous about giving them a CO before they extend it to a 20-year, surety or whatever. Well, maybe what we should do is carry this one on until we have time to look at the, I don't know why my but there's other communities, they've done it, and if our ordinance, the older ordinance says that we take cash, maybe we should propose cash in an interest-bearing account as an alternative. And
I can do some research.
Or we need a bond for the life of the solar array. If they want to get their CO. I mean, unless somebody has some other suggestion, I don't know how to easily resolve this, but I know the issue is always once you give them their CO, nobody has any leverage.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea, Susan, rather than tying it to a definitive set number of years. It's the life expectancy of the array, and upon retiring it.
Right, because then it's on them. It would be on them to come back, and once they've decommissioned it,
Right.
come back to the planning board and request that cash back. And if it's interest bearing, like $100,000.
It's a lot easier than us tracking them down. Yep, or the town.
Making sure that they have bonds. So, I mean, we thought maybe the amount would be a lot, but since if maybe the bonds are usually, or the amount of decommissioning is 100,000, amount of money they're outlaying for these solar projects, the developments, it's pretty small peanuts in comparison. I don't know. So if Travis, do you have any other comments or suggestions?
Susan, I just found the February 4th
Oh, you found it. Good.
meeting notes, and on the very bottom, it says, Mr. Cardello explained that the amount of $134,412 represented the current cost of removal and restoration of the site, an additional $13,441, 10% accounted for the application reverse proposal of $147,853. Following the brief discussion, planning board found that these proposals acceptable. Ms. Gill noted the surety would be voted on before the final plan approval. Ms. Eve asked if form of surety would be a bond. Mr. Lindsay replied that he thought so.
You're referring to Wingover, right?
Yeah, that amount.
That's February 4th meeting note.
That doesn't give us temporal though, right? It doesn't give us the time of the bond.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Doesn't say.
It might have been another move. Well, why don't we do a little more
I found the section 7 in the solar ordinance.
Oh, good.
It addresses surety.
Okay. What does it call out for?
It doesn't really, it just says surety. Prior to final approval and recording of a medium or large ground array, the owner operator shall provide an appropriate surety approved by the planning board in an amount not more than 110% of the current cost of removal and revegetation of the site as recommended by the town tax assessor. Then it goes on to state about a small ground array shall be exempt from the posting of a surety, but shall record an agreement for the decommissioning and removal in land evidence records. Surety shall be held by the planning board until such time the planning board votes to release the funds. Surety will not be required for municipal or state-owned facility.
So these bonds are recorded. I mean,
Yes.
the decommissioning are recorded. We looked at them, but they have an expiration date
Good.
we were talking about.
That one leaves it open. It just says authority. So we can we can ask for cash
Right.
or a bond, and it didn't specify a time frame. Of the operation of the solar array. I mean, it leaves it pretty open to what it's going to do.
Mike, just so I know you're just hopping on, but before you got on, we were kind of discussing one of Jen's solar projects in another town, and there was a cash payment instead of a third-party guarantor that was accepted by the town, and it sounds like the definition of a surety in that solar ordinance would allow for a cash payment. Would you agree or disagree?
I don't have the language in front of me, but based on what was read, apparently, yeah. I think it's Article 11 of your regs allow you to take surety and or have an agreement or cash.
Right. Janice, you have your hand raised. Did you want to say something?
Me?
Janice, yeah.
No.
You got your little hand up.
Don't know how that happened.
It's very cute. It's the first time I've seen it. Okay. All right. All right. Well, since it seemed like we're kind of spinning our wheels on this tonight, why don't we go ahead and carry this forward? Well, we have till February. I mean, we can carry it forward to the next meeting, and hopefully we'll have some resolution by then. Yes, Travis or Mike, if you could help. Or Jen, anybody has anything to offer, to something that we can present to the applicants, the developers, and say, this is how we're going to go with this, since what we have is not no longer it's not acceptable. It's not what the planning board intended. So I don't know if that could be done administratively, if it's presented.
I just want to say that what I just quoted was in the zoning code, Article 24, the one that's been released, invalidated, and it was Section 7. It wasn't in the land evidence. I'm sorry, in the land use subdivision regulations.
Right, that's the repealed solar ordinance. Yeah. All right, why don't we go ahead and do that and move that to the next meeting? I don't know. Do we have to do this formally, or just say it's going to be continued for the discussion? Once we have more information to present to the developers.
Motion to continue the item as you stated.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, next roll call for the vote. Janet? Janice, are you there? I've taken a vote. We're taking a vote to move this item to the next meeting. All right, so don't have Janice. Maybe if you, Amanda?
Yes.
Christine?
Yes.
Rosemary,
Yes.
Sue,
Yes.
Susan, yes, Adam,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
and Janet. You on now? Oh, I see. She doesn't have the phone connection anymore. does she? Right. So I have. Okay. I guess she's lost the phone connection. All right. Moving on to item C is review of past sureties and possible vote continued from October 6, 2020. The first one is JPS Realty Management, Winterberry Woods, Fund 510. These are sureties that we're trying to resolve on behalf of the town and the town treasurer. I guess, Jen, why don't you go ahead and just do the review?
Sure. So Winterberry Woods is a subdivision with multiple roads. And we did so we're just trying to clear up these sureties. And we found that these roads were never accepted by the town, but Rick has gone out and looked at them and said that they're good and that they should, and there were notes in planning board notes where the planning board did say that it should be accepted. So I think that talking to Sue, we were mentioning that the planning board should send a recommendation to the town council that the roads should be accepted, but it should be contingent on an HOA being formed. So I don't know if Rick wants to talk more about what he looked at in Winterberry Woods, and I'm sure that some of the planning board have institutional knowledge about this subdivision.
Yes, thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Susan.
Yep.
We did send a memo out that in regards to the release of the surety, and the DPW has, and that was dated 9/1/20. DPW has no objection to the release of the surety. As far as the town accepting of the road, based on some of the documents that were attached to the email sent to DPW, it appeared that the town was accepted by the town based on the note 11/1/2009, 10/1/2011. So I did not, review whether or not it should be accepted by the town, because it indicated on that document that it was accepted by the town. If it hasn't been accepted by the town, as Jennifer mentioned, DPW would feel that an HOA should be in place, and there should be documents stating the HOA would be taking care of any underground electric, the stormwater management, and there is some stormwater management there, and any landscaping beyond grass on the right of way. That would be DPW's preference.
Is this the one with the streetlight issue?
Not to my knowledge, Susan. This would be down south end of town.
Okay, so Winterberry Woods is a different development than the one that has the busted streetlight?
Yes.
Well, yeah, there's a couple with streetlight issues, but Winterberry, to my knowledge, is not one of them. But DPW is not looking to take on, if there are any, underground electric. We would not be interested in taking on any of those responsibilities for underground electric or related lights.
Right, do they have custom streetlights?
I don't remember any streetlights being there, but I wasn't reviewing that at the time because I thought the roads were already accepted per the document.
Right, okay.
If I may add to Mr. Rogers' excellent response there, I was a member of the street committee, and we were trying to get them to form an HOA. And the person at the time was Kelly Levesque. She was in communication with the chairman of the subcommittee, and it was not accepted by the town. And I don't know if they're receiving town services, if they plow, or if trash is picked up there. Rick, maybe you can help me, but I don't think it should be. Maybe that would put some force behind them to get an HOA established and recorded.
Yes, thank you, Rosemary. Those are good questions too, as far as details of being able to put a little pressure on them to Travis and Mike. But the town does provide plowing and it does do trash pickup. And you know, there's not a lot of maintenance required, so that hasn't been an issue.
Understand, but usually that, you know, you hold their feet to the ground there by getting them stopping it. And it has been the case in other subdivisions where the town said no services until you establish an HOA.
Yes, DPW has no objection to not providing services till an HOA is formed, as long as that's Travis and Mike say that that's you know, legal.
We've done it in the past. And some,
Why do you need an HOA to get town services if you pay taxes in town?
because it's a subdivision and that the developer's supposed to have it in place.
For their infrastructure, for the stormwater operation and maintenance.
Do they pay less taxes there in that subdivision because they're a subdivision than the rest of us? Is that why they don't get those services, or do they pay the same taxes that we pay?
It's part of subdivisions. HOAs are not they're not a great invention, and it's usually the unsuspecting homeowners that then get stuck with these things.
Susan, I remember this one from when I was on a council, and I believe the problem we had, and I think Rosemary hit on it, was we couldn't get all the signatures from the people that lived on in that area, Winterberry Woods.
You're right, and you're right, Dave. And it went up for auction. The lots went up for auction. It was a mess.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to propose that to move this along, that, and I also noticed that as-built have been done. In order to move this forward would be to send a recommendation to the council that that, you know, DPW has reviewed this, that planning board has approved release of the surety, that the roads are acceptable, with the caveat that the homeowners association is formed and it, you know, make sure they submit the legal documents for recording that cover landscaping, any landscaping treatment, stormwater operation and maintenance plan, extends to underground utilities, and we'll check and make sure if there's any street lights, custom street lights that have to be included in this. And along with that, once they do that, then it's up to the council then to accept those roads. And it can be also included that currently they're receiving town services of plowing and trash, and that should be taken into consideration. And then I think it would be up to the council, if I recall how this is done, would be they would contact all the residents of the subdivision, let them know kind of the situation, that they need to form their homeowners association. They've moved towards that in the past, but then they haven't done it. But then if you have the leverage thing, you're going to lose your trash pickup and your plowing. I mean, it has worked in the past, but that's the leverage you could apply in order to get them to form a homeowners association and you know, register it with the state. So otherwise, the town continues to provide services that they are not obligated to provide.
It wasn't clear, Susan. Are you right? Are you asking for a motion to send a recommendation to accept the road? Because I think they accept the road before.
Well, yeah, I think we're saying that they've done all they need to do, that they've done the as-built, which was one thing that was outstanding. They, the planning board in the past would cite the date. The planning board approved that all the work had been done, and recommended release of the surety, and then it just never went back to the council, asked them if they wanted to accept the road. And we would recommend them accepting the road when they've they formed and recorded a homeowners association. So that basically it.
So I would be happy to make that motion.
Okay, what I'll do is try to get it written up and then we can submit it to the planning board next time to just review it.
Okay,
Sure.
So you don't need a motion. If
Um,
you're just gonna write it up and then
Yeah.
resubmit it.
If everybody's like that's, I mean, it seems like that's the way to go with it. And then once it goes to the council, once they accept the road, if they want to accept the roads without requiring a homeowners association, then it's on them to require DPW to continue to provide the services without a homeowners association. Because once
And we've done that before, Susan.
yeah, you don't have any leverage. Again, it's all about leverage. So we can do that and, move this on to the council. Then once they make their determination, if they accept the roads, then it would come back to us and then we would release the show.
I think we're approaching it the wrong way. I think we should have everything in order. Get the HOA. If we're having difficulty with the HOA, tell the council. We're not going to make the recommendation to accept the roads until we get the HOA, because that's part of their requirements for a development.
well, you don't accept roads, only the town council.
Understand, but make a recommendation. I'm sorry. I don't think we should make the recommendation until we get all the ducks in a row. You say you've got the as-bills, but we don't have the HOA. Just tell them there's a problem. Suggest that they don't give them services until they do that.
If we're in the position, are we the people that should be following through? I mean, to make
Yes,
sure.
we are.
Get formed at this point. I mean, this is all kind of done deal.
I have to say I agree with Rosemary on that one.
I think we have to get everything in order for the council to say, they're going to give them services or not. And the only way you're going to get an HOA, we did it with Daniel Church.
But the council did that, not the planning board.
Right, but we told them the problem.
Well, I know. I mean, either way, I think it has to go to council. But I don't know if we have any authority at this point to say you have to form a homeowners association, do we?
Of course we do.
Do we, Travis? I mean, it would be a matter of either the council sending out the letters or the planning board sending out the letters notifying you. So I don't know.
Council sent out the letters the last time.
Right.
Right.
And the problem we had was that some of these people who own those homes in that particular development don't live there. They live down in Florida and everywhere else in the United States. So it was tough getting all those signatures back. That was the problem. Even Nancy Mello went out to the houses themselves. I remember it clearly.
So Travis, who has the authority to, or who has I don't know if it's not the authority, but who's in the position then to contact all these homeowners and, kind of lay this out to them that this is what they need to do? Is it?
This is Mike. I think it would be the town council, the other ones who ultimately have to accept the road or not. So they can decide whether, how old is the subdivision? How long has it been there?
I think it's like 10 years.
12
10
years?
years?
Yeah.
Yeah,
12 years.
So for 10 years, the town has been plowing a road and servicing the road and whatnot. And now we're going to tell these people they're not going to get their roads plowed.
No.
That's just, I can't imagine any town council is going to be able to do that.
Oh, we do.
But that's up to them.
Is
I
there
know,
a
that's
fee
up
that's
to
going to
them.
be levied on those residents for registering as an HOA?
I don't know. There will be a recording fee, but there'll be a legal fee for them to draft an HOA. So
Right.
about that. I mean, here's the problem. I'm sure the original owners of those homes are not the original owners today, right? They probably had some
That's
flipping
exactly.
going on.
It's the developer, Mike. It was a developer that went belly up, just like we've had in
Yeah.
other cases.
Mhm.
I mean, the HOA, has been part of it, it's for the stormwater, the drainage, and so that the
Yeah.
residents within there are responsible for it. And they have to record it with the Secretary of State or whatever.
I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying it's the council's decision. I mean, I would just lay it all out with the problems you're having and let the council decide how they want to proceed.
Right.
I don't disagree with you. Yeah.
I mean, I think they're the
If
ones.
they're recommending we the road.
I've lost, is it me or have we lost Mike?
No, I'm here. I think I'm in a bad area, but I mean, I would lay out all these factors. I don't know if you need a vote or if someone from the planning board wants to write a letter. I don't know if you want to vote on the letter once it's drafted. It seems to me it would be a little waste of time. I mean, just everyone could be copied on the letter, and then let the council make the recommendation. Let the council decide.
I think that's what we have to do. I think we have to pull the pieces together and send it to the council and then let them decide what they want to do with it, because they don't have all these pieces and to focus on it to do it. And what we're trying to do is release the funds. It's not a lot, but we'd like to clear these books because that money's been sitting there.
We clear the books, but we also give Mr. Rogers some leverage there too, with who's responsible for a lot of the drainage issues and the things that he's having problems with. He inherited so much from the former DPW directors. I mean, let's face it. I mean, drivers go in, they don't know if it's a private road, if it's developed or not developed.
Right.
Well, with Winterberry in particular, said he's not having any maintenance issues there.
Right now.
But that's
But what happens in the future? That subdivision abuts another subdivision where they have had issues. I walked it personally.
I think the issue is that developers look for these subdivisions under the guise that they're going to establish homeowners associations, and then the individual homeowners are responsible to foot the bill or responsibility for some maintenance. And that's just the nature of the beast. And it's not a great situation, but it allows the developers a way to develop land without because the town can't provide the infrastructure, the developer says they'll take it on. And then they pass it on to the homeowners. And that's just the way it happens. And it's not great, but partly it's because the town doesn't have the ability to provide all that infrastructure. So, well, I would still recommend that I'll work with Jennifer. We'll draft a letter presented at either the next meeting that we can get it organized and we can take a vote on it. And if that's what we want to do to send it forward or amend the letter, then I think we at least can move forward on it. So I think we have all the information we need. We just need to act on it now. And I think sending it to the council is probably the right move.
So the letter would basically cover the history and saying there's no HOA.
Right. It would basically, pull all those pieces together if we want to provide them with some of the backup for it. And then just say this is our recommendation. And then it's up to them to decide how they want to play it. And, I mean, Rick can answer their questions and we can answer questions if they ask them. But at least then it gives us a way to possibly release that surety instead of just having it sit somewhere and Denise and the treasurer having to keep track of it. And we're trying to clear out some of these old sureties. So I don't know. Do we have to have a motion for this to move it forward for a recommendation letter to the town council? Draft letter. Do we need a motion for that, or can we just do it?
We should move forward.
Motion.
Okay, so motion to draft a letter with our response to the town council.
I approve that.
Who is that? Oh, Stu? Okay. Who's got a second on it?
So this, I have one question. This letter is specifically for Winterberry?
Yes.
Winterberry, okay.
Second.
Okay. So the first and second. Any other questions, comments? Okay, I'll go through the roll call for voting. Janice? You back?
Yes.
Okay, yay, Janice. Amanda?
Yes.
Christine?
Yes.
Rosemary?
Yes.
Sue?
Yes.
Susan? Yes. Adam?
No.
Dave?
Yes.
And Peter?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. Next we'll do Sylvia. Let's see what it is. Sam S. Sylvia, Knotty Pine Extension, Fund 514. Okay. I guess Jennifer, you want to just run through that one for everybody?
Yeah, I believe that is an accepted road, and Rick went and looked at it, and he thinks it should be accepted, and we can give back, looks like we can give back the money. If you do choose to do that, we should figure out who exactly it is that we're giving the money back to. So.
If I may add, Jennifer, it's not up to DPW to give a recommendation on accepting the road, because it is accepted already.
It is accepted. Yes, it is.
All we did was review whether or not there was issues with the road that we'd want to hold the surety for what the surety was issued. And DPW has no objection to the release of the surety balance.
Rick, did you check the drainage? I mean, I don't want to hold you up. I understand that the cul-de-sac down there, but memory serves me correctly. There was a drainage issue to the south off of that little extension there.
There's no drainage issue currently,
Okay.
of which I'm aware, and the road is held up, reasonably well for the age, which is around 10 years.
Right.
In the use of the road.
Okay.
So Jennifer, are you saying that we don't know who actually paid the surety, and therefore the person that the surety should be returned to? We don't know who that is?
The applicant was S. Silva.
Yeah, that's Sam Silva.
Sam Silva. He's since moved.
But he's still in Tiverton? Is that correct?
Yes.
So
He
I
lives-
wanted to
he
make
lives in
sure
the
that
lot
that
that
was the
happened.
same person.
Yep.
All right, so my only issue with it is that I remember when I went through all the minutes on this a few years back, through the research on it, this fell into the category that it had been determined that they needed to make a streetlight payment times 36 months, and the amount proposed that was agreed upon in the minutes was $6,000. And I could never find any record that streetlight payment was made. So I would recommend that we, return the $30,906.77 less the $6,000 for the streetlight escrow that was never paid, and that would go to streetlight account in the general fund.
I'll be happy to make that motion.
Second.
Come on.
Minutes where it says that, I'm just.
Well, I don't know if I copied all the minutes that had that, but I had read through the entire set of minutes when I did this several years ago, and I found that it must have been the August 5th, 2008, because in there I had the notes that it was, that was when it was a new binder code, the clean drain line, the raised catch basin structure, and it was determined that a streetlight payment at times 36 months of $6,000 was to be paid. And when I followed through all the other minutes, I never found that was actually done. And I believe I checked with the town clerk as well, and they didn't have anything on record that that $6,000 was ever paid to the town. So I would say that the town is owed that. That was part of the agreement. That was in the minutes. It's documented, but it was never paid. So that would be my motion, would be to, I guess, return the surety to Sam Silva.
But hold back $6,000 that was never paid.
Right.
So I've made that motion.
Right. Okay. And then Amanda seconded it.
Correct.
Is there any other questions, comments? Okay, we'll go through the roll call vote. Janice,
Yes.
Amanda,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Rosemary,
Yes.
Sue,
Yes.
Susan, yes, Adam,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
and Peter.
Yes.
Okay, great. Excellent. Okay, and then the last one are the infamous gravel bonds. Jennifer?
Hey, Mike?
Oh, Mike. We turned this over to Mike.
Yes.
Okay,
Is he there?
Mike. Nope.
No?
I don't know. He's on mute, I think.
Mike, we can't hear you.
Here,
Yeah.
I couldn't figure out how to get off mute. Sorry, what's up?
The gravel bonds.
Hello?
Yeah?
Oh,
Gravel bonds.
so, I have finally made contact with the unclaimed property people at the treasurer's office, which I actually had to call the general treasurer myself to get someone to call me back. There is a provision in the Unclaimed Property Act where if we are, and these were named, some of these we are named as a signature on the account, but others we're a trustee of the account. Those, per the statute, we have to make an attempt to find out if we know who they are, whose benefit we were holding the funds, or whose funds they actually were. And if not, we're going to have to wind up turning those over to the state. Now, I did make contact, I know Travis did make contact with, I can't remember the name of the estate that was closed, or we knew who the estate was. And we sent them releases for the divide up, I think $600 or something like that.
That was Daniel
waiting
D.
to get
Church. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I couldn't remember the name. So we're waiting to get those back to sign off to say that for them to sign off and say that they're going to release the town from any liability for holding the money or whatever. So
Oh, that's a different one, Mike. We're talking about something different. We're talking about the gravel
So,
bonds.
yeah,
The gravel bonds, the $4,801. That basically that we have no documentation or records other than possibly some destruction of records. I think it
Yep.
was decided that we're just going to go the same way, right? That we could never find anybody that was attached to any of these funds so that it would go to unclaimed property. I think, Rosemary, you did some research also. It came up empty-handed.
Yes.
I've looked treasurer's office, clerk's office. Rosemary's gone through the building office. I've gone through the planning board office. I've gone through minutes. I've gone through a lot of books downstairs, and I found amounts. I never found any names attached to any of them or any files that show.
I originally was hoping that we would be able to just keep the money, put it in the general fund or whatever. But I think probably the safer bet, if they're willing to accept it, is to just turn it over to the unclaimed property as.
So that's what we do.
for the-
Over what's the official title? So I guess
It's a general treasurer unclaimed property division.
unclaimed property division for the state of Rhode Island.
When they used to publish the new names in the paper once a year of all the accounts and whatnot. Now we have an obligation as to try to do our due diligence. So I think we'll just probably give them an affidavit saying that we went through our records and we couldn't find anything who owns these. And I'm hoping they might say, well, just keep it because we're technically on the account. The town is on the account.
So what?
I believe, right?
So,
Yes.
yeah. Well, what's the next?
Yeah.
So,
So again, I'm sorry, you broke up.
You're saying, what is the next step?
The next step is to I'm waiting for the final determination from the unclaimed property offices as to what they want us to do.
okay.
I laid out this whole scenario to them. They said, "Oh, this is a new one for us, and let me get back to you." So that's what I'm waiting for them to get back to me.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we've looked through everything, so we've got to.
Yeah, you made a good due diligence effort. Then you can't find any name associated with these accounts.
Right. No names, no device.
And I told them that.
So would you be responsible to get the affidavit? if we need one to send.
If they
you?
need it, if they need one, yeah. Otherwise, I would just, between Jen and I, the law department planning planner, will just figure out how to do it. I mean, I know the treasurer's anxious to get this off her books, so.
Right. All right, so once you have the final answer, whether it goes to the state or to us, I guess we could carry that to the next agenda, because we then would just authorize to release it, or can we even vote to release it now, whether it's to the state or to?
You just say that you're authorized to follow the law. I mean, it's really, I'm gonna follow the law, wherever it leads us, and I don't think I really need authorization from the planning board to do anything with them, because it's really, right now, it's property of the town, and we're just gonna handle it the way that we deem fit, and the way we're advised by the unclaimed property. I have a feeling they're gonna want us to just turn it over to them, because that's what the statute says. When you're holding money in trust for someone else and you can't determine who the trustee is, you have to turn it over to the state. So.
Okay. So do we need to take a vote on this?
No, I'll keep you as to where we're going with it.
It'd be the treasurer's obligation then, wouldn't it, Mike?
Correct. She's holding the funds on behalf of the town, not the planning board.
All right, so I guess Jennifer will wait for you and Mike to just let us know the outcome of this. I guess we don't have to take a vote on it, just, let us know the final outcome if it went to the state or to the town.
Okay.
And then we're done with it, right?
We hopefully, yeah.
Okay. Excellent. All right, good. Moving along then. Item D is annual license renewal, recommendations to town council and possible vote on Coelho Quarry and Country View Estates, Appendix A, Article 4, Section 16F3. Jennifer?
Yes, I did take a site visit of both places. I haven't written something up. I took pictures as well. I'd like to write something up and submit it to you. So if we could table it, it would be great.
Can we continue the item?
Yeah, we'll continue this to, you think you'll have these by the November meeting?
Yes, because I just have to write something.
All right,
Motion to continue.
Second.
Oh, I just wanted to explain to other people that these are two items, this Coelho Quarry that's inactive and Country View Estates is the mobile homes up in North Tiverton, and they both are licensed. So every year, planning department is required to do it's usually a minimal review and vote and send a recommendation to the town council, so that as long as they don't have anything outstanding, they issue their license for the following year. So that's what this is all about. It's a license renewal thing. So unless the council typically does this in November every year. So we just try to get things ready with a recommendation. Usually they say there's been no activity or cause for any reason to withhold their license renewal. And that's the extent of it, but it has to come to us and we vote on it, that the letters to approval. So if we have those in November for the November meeting, we'll just go ahead and do the votes then. We have to do a motion to continue this item to November?
I'll make such a motion.
I did.
I'll continue to November meeting. Okay, so do a second. Any other questions? Vote time. Janice?
Yes.
Amanda?
Yes.
Christine?
Yes.
Renee? I mean, not Renee, Rosemary.
Yes.
Gosh, this is a good sign. Stu?
Yes.
Susan? Yes. Adam?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
And Peter? We lose Peter.
No, I said yes.
Oh, you did. Sorry. Okay. God, losing my hearing too. Okay. All right. Oh, okay. Item E. Sorry, I'm already getting punchy. Sorry, everybody. Appoint ad hoc committee to write and review ordinance to limit development of soil and water constraints, discussion and possible vote continued from October 6, 2020. This item is the one that Stu had talked about before, the memorandum that he submitted in June. It's kind of keeps getting pushed off. What I would like to do is basically, because we had that meeting with the council, that workshop meeting, and they're antsy to also get moving with this. And I think if we do this as a workshop, or I mean a workshop, a small work group, it can be done very informally to draft something together to present to the planning board. Yeah, my suggestion is that Jennifer and Stu on this. I don't know if there's any other planning board member that is particularly interested in this area of soil and water constraints in town. It's environmental and watershed and that kind of stuff. So if anybody's interested to work on this with them. Okay. All right.
So,
What's that?
this is Mike. My recommendation is exactly what you indicated. If there's a group of people who want to get together on an informal basis and draft some proposals or some draft legislation or whatever, that's the better way of doing it, because number one, the planning board doesn't really have the authority to appoint a subcommittee of itself to do something. If you really wanted a working committee to, you really go to the town council and ask them to appoint a working committee, and then then it would be subject to the open meetings law and all that other other requirements of open government. So if a group of people want to get together and put a proposal, then bring it to the town council as a petition, basically, it'd be ever.
Town council or planning board?
Say it again.
Town council
well,
or planning board?
Well, I guess the planning board would want to weigh in on it once it's drafted, right? And then maybe the planning board can certainly make a recommendation as a planning board whether or not the council should adopt it, and then obviously the council would be the one to finally adopt it.
And I think this is a good foundation for the broader picture that was brought up that had to do with housing, housing density, and all that, and the numbers of Tiverton. So I think whatever the two of them work on this and get together, appreciate their efforts, and I think that'll probably expedite it faster than trying to form groups and put people together and get information. So that I would wish you guys.
So is there a good time to talk, Stu? You want to contact me?
I'll be happy to either give you a call or send you an email tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay.
And so we don't need a formal vote because we're just a task group, the two of us at this point. And if some member of the planning board wishes to join us at a later date, that's fine too. I don't see any legal problem with that. Do you, Mike?
No.
Good.
Well, yeah, as long as there's not a quorum, everybody's good.
So we don't even need a vote.
Right. Okay. Good. Well, it took a little longer than I thought, but okay. Now we're on to item F, amended checklist and subdivision regulations, public hearing and possible vote continued from October 6, 2020. So we're continuing the public hearing. So what you have in front of you this time is I had gone through all the changes that we had at our meeting last month and just basically did everything in red. So you saw all the changes, minimize colors. Then I had identified the ones that in blue that were still questions for Mike that we thought were legal questions. And there was one in there that was identified to ask Jennifer to address. That was about the calipers. We received Jennifer's comments yesterday afternoon, and we received Mike's comments this morning. So unfortunately, none of this has been able to be incorporated into the document that I sent out last week. But what I'd like to do is I went through all of their comments today and tried to work through them. I know we're going to have to continue this again to get clean copies of these before anybody's going to be interested in voting. But if we can tackle as many of these as we can, we really need to move forward with them. So everybody's still with me on this. Going through on attachment 1, when we get down to the first thing that has to do with the notary, that was the question was. So on the memorandum that Mike sent out, he provided language where necessary, a notarized letter from the property owners stating the applicant has been granted the authority to present the application with the owner's permission. So if we substitute that in place of the existing language that's there, then on all the documents. The only thing I would do is exclude where necessary, because I know like in all of these, I always have the box where either they can check it or put NA. So if any item is not applicable, they just have to put NA. So I don't know if where necessary, or if you put if applicable becomes redundant, but I think that language will, I mean, it satisfies it for me. If anybody else has any questions or comments on it. Okay. Then looking at Jennifer's comments on attachment 1. And I think she followed that through all the things. Would be the comments to the zoning official would be after the certificate of completeness is issued, and that we will wait till anything is submitted to anybody else until her certificate of completeness is done. So the only difference on that would be on item 23. If we just word it as a determination letter from the building or zoning official prior to approval. The only question is I have on this one indicating if relief is requested, and if you want that language to carry through all of them or just delete it. It's a matter of semantics, and if you want us to, Jennifer and I, to come up with a final decision on that, but we would just be adding prior to approval. So that basically qualifies it, that it doesn't have to, they don't have to have that letter before the certificate of completeness is issued, because it's on the checklist. It's just before the approval of the administrative subdivision did, so that can come in after the certificate of completeness. And then the other comment she had was to add a line for the signature of the applicant and printing name, which I failed to include.
I think that was the only one that didn't have.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So and so basically this one is ready to go. You know, the yellow is all the existing language that's being deleted. The red is all the new language that's being included. And the black is what's existing currently. So I think that one's done. That's one. Okay. Everybody still with it? Okay. So that's good. I don't know. Do we want to vote on these as we approve them, or just wait and we could do a group of them?
We do the whole swap.
Oh,
Yeah, I agree.
I agree, the whole thing.
okay. You guys.
Outstanding job, Susan.
Oh, well, thanks. My typing's getting better. My formatting is still struggling, but okay.
Susan, it is a public hearing, so I don't know if you want to ask for public comment at some point.
Oh, after each one? Yeah, I don't know. Is there anybody present from the public, Jennifer?
Call in user 2. Oh,
I see that.
it looks like they are part of the screen.
Is that Janice?
That's yes, that's Janice. Okay, so there's no one else.
Okay, so call for the public comments and no one is in the audience. Okay. Okay. Moving on to attachment 2, the concept plans. So again, we can substitute the language that Mike has submitted for that language. Then when we go through, it was number 20. Oh, it's just Jennifer offered some rewording of item 20. if soil contaminants are present on the subject parcel, I had indicate type and location. And then, oh yeah, and then I went through today, I was realizing on item 18, where it has the FEMA floodplain map, because I found it when I got to the environmental review statement, that in that I think I included the wording showing the entire parcel. And so that does seem to be an issue at times, that we're getting parcels in our presentation. I would like to add that to all of the items that call for the FEMA floodplain map showing the entire parcel. And write that. And then, oh, when I got to her comment on 29, one is where she add, if applicable, that was for the proposing a comprehensive permanent plan for low and moderate housing. When I'd done these, I'd gone through all that, and I had deleted all the if applicables, because the space in front of it always puts, if it's not applicable, then you can put NA. If it applies, then you check it. And the same as like in items 33 and 34, other ones, proposed street extensions for those pedestrian facilities. If they don't apply, the applicant would just check not applicable. So I just kind of, that was my feeling, was not to put applicable on a lot of on these, because it just seems redundant of being not applicable. If it's either applicable or it's not. So I don't know if we need to qualify it twice. And I don't think, because this is a concept plan, and it includes a lot of information, but it's all kind of generic. And I think those were the only changes submitted for either of those. So does anybody have any other comments on the?
No.
All right, I think that will be, everybody's good. That one's ready to go.
Hold on a minute, Susan. On your header, on attachment 2, are
Yeah,
you going to just put concept plan checklist at the top? Because you don't have your line through it.
no, I have checklists for concept plans.
Yeah,
Plan, you want single?
you left informal in at the top, in
Yeah,
the
that, okay.
top heading.
Okay, and I guess it should be concept plan, singular.
Because in the footer, you've got concept plan checklist, just to make it consistent.
Oh, right, okay. Oh yeah, I think there were a couple things where I forgot the line. Okay. All right. Yeah, and I'll change concept plan to singular at the top as well. Okay. Anything else anybody sees? Gives them heartburn? I think that covers it. And hopefully this will then, when applicants get these, we'll get information we need, and we don't have to keep asking them for stuff. It's like it's either there, it's on the checklist. Okay. So attachment 3 is the site analysis. And this one is not a standalone attachment. We included, that it accompanies a master plan or a minor subdivision, environmental review statement if we specifically require it. The one I left at blue at the top was 20 copies. I know Tara has definitely opinion on how many copies, and I want to give her a chance to make her comments. As I know 20 seems excessive, and I don't know how we ended up with that, or if people have another number they want to offer. Tara, did you have a recommendation? I would take that first.
Hi, Sue. Yeah, thanks.
Welcome.
So I have about 5 planning board members who routinely get hard copies. And then I need one for the file, one for Jennifer. No other departments really want printed copies anymore. I pretty much only deal with electronic copies. So 10 or 12 is more kind of what I need. 20 is way more than I need.
Okay.
And I do get electronic versions of all submissions. So if I ever need to emergency print something, I have everything saved on the computer.
Okay. All right. I would suggest 12. I mean, I think a lot of these, rather than getting too many different numbers, like concept plans are 12, major land development, if that's 12. Because you figure 9 planning board members, that gives 3 other copies. And then everybody else gets electronic. I mean, and even 9 planning board members don't accept it. So that gives us a real surplus, unless you want to go smaller. I mean, I don't know.
I just would really not want to get 20 copies.
It's a lot of paper. It's a lot of paper. But a lot of the information on this will be on like a major, like a master plan or a preliminary plan. So it's not going to be additional, like some of the narrative stuff or some of the items, but basically all this information is going to be incorporated into the major land development. It's just instead of having to put all these items on the master, preliminary, and final plan, you'll refer to the site plan analysis, and the information's all there. Then it just has to be printed once. That's why it's a supplement. So I don't know. I would suggest going with 12, unless people want to go with less. That way we have. That's how many we ask for administrative subdivisions and for concept plans, just to keep the numbers consistent, unless you want to. And then that way, if planning board members change and newer planning board members want paper copies, we will have adequate, I guess would be the point. And you always have to have information available for the public as well, to have access. So that's my suggestion, is 12, unless anybody wants to offer something else. Okay.
Sounds like a good compromise.
You live with that one. Okay. Thank you. And then when we get down to item 7, that's the one where Jennifer was trying to, I was trying to understand this whole environmental site assessment, and Jennifer did some further information that she spelled out for us to try and explain it.
Yeah, I can. I contacted DEM and said, if they've got notices when a phase 1 is done, because phase 1 is it's a process that is written out. It's not like you just say that you did a phase 1. There's like a system to it. And there's also a phase 2. And they told me that they do not receive notification when a phase 1 or phase 2 unless contaminants are found. Then they have to be notified. So I also found that a phase 1 requires that someone has experience doing it. And there's a variety of years. The shortest amount of time is 3 years of experience, and then you have to have a PE's license. So usually these things cost $2,000 to $3,000. The reason why I bring it up is that maybe it would be valuable for a major land division subdivision, but maybe you want to think about that for a minor. It might be like a property that's split into 2, and you're requiring this, and also it's mentioned in the ERS as well. So I just wanted to.
So Jennifer, our little subgroup that consisted of Rosemary, Susan, and myself, when we started this process for checklists, we did discuss this issue. And I made the case that these ESA, environmental site assessment, phase 1, are very common and becoming even more common for 2 reasons. First of all, a lot of lenders will no longer lend money on any piece of land of any size, anything that's going to be a commercial or a subdivision, without actually seeing a phase 1. And secondly, a phase 1, which is a written document, short, a phase 1 offers the prospective buyer legal immunity from any kind of lawsuit in the future if contamination is discovered, because it is accepted by the courts, and I believe that there's U.S. Supreme Court case law on this, that a phase one shows that the owner has made a good faith due diligence, as the lawyers would say. In other words, studied the property and made an attempt to discover if there were any liabilities on the property. That's one point I'd like to make. The second point is most of the developers we work with are already going to be hiring professionals. And there is a standard that US EPA has put forward based on American Society of Testing and Materials protocols. That's the professional organization that actually develops. It's actually developed the three-phase system. They're going to hire those people anyhow to do other things that we require. So I don't think that we're putting a burden on them. As I think I mentioned last time this came up, the Tiverton Land Trust is required by the state land trust organization to do a phase one on all of the properties that they purchase. And sometimes they purchase or acquire properties that are less than an acre. Frankly, I think if we have a site analysis requirement, it would be remiss of us not to include a phase one. And a phase one, by the way, I checked the regulations earlier today at DEM. They're called the standards and practices for all appropriate inquiries on a phase one. And they only require two things. They require a site visit and they require a title review to make sure that the title does not have any environmental liens. Now they go on to say that very often people will also do interviews with persons who are familiar with the property. They'll go to the local community and find out if any permits have been issued on that land to determine what the former uses of the land were. But there are only really two very simple requirements. And that's the most recent standard that EPA has put forward, again, based on ASTM protocols. So I urge my colleagues to keep this as it is.
So the other 2 points I would make. One is if we leave it as required, it's only required for major land developments or subdivisions. That for minor subdivisions or ERSs, we have it written that it's at our discretion. The other question is, even if we have that it's required for major land development subdivisions, if an applicant had a real concern, is this something they could ask for a waiver not to do? Would that alleviate that responsibility? I mean, that's my question.
And if it's not appropriate for some reason, we will be very happy to grant the waiver.
I mean, would that fall under a waiver?
Yes.
Because the only other wording I had thought of, if we wanted to put if requested, but I know some of what Stu is saying.
I think it should be standard, and unless the applicant comes to us and says, look, this is not really appropriate for some reason, then we would listen to that rationale and we would grant the waiver. We can waive anything. We can, by the way, we can waive anything on the checklists. We have that legal authority. And I'm not the lawyer here, so I'm going to ask Travis to
then subdivision
confirm that.
we can waive. We can't waive ordinances, but we can waive subdivision regulations. So basically, the thing we're saying it's required for is major land developments or subdivisions. Everything else is at our discretion. So if where everybody is on this, I mean, the options are to either have it as is required or to change it to if requested to allow for a little more I guess leeway for the applicant.
I think it should be required.
Okay. Need to hear from somebody else, some other people to know where you want to go with this.
There are still some very large parcels of land in town. We have had contamination in these other areas, small or large. And I don't want to see another Firestone dump or Coits or some of the other places. And I think Stu's point is well taken. I would say required and ask for a waiver if they want it.
Okay. And at this point, DEM isn't involved at all. This is strictly.
No, it's not DEM. This is strictly federal. And as a matter of fact, it's really an industry-wide protocol through the American Society of Testing and Materials. The US EPA has picked it up because it's become so common and have further refined it, but always based on ASTM. Has nothing to do with DEM.
Well, if they have to do a remediation plan, that's when we have DEM gets involved.
Exactly. If you ever got to phase 3, then the remediation plan would involve DEM. I'm sorry. I was talking about phase 1.
Right. So, where I'm at is we'll leave it as required unless Jan, you or anybody else has any other comments they want to make.
I think we leave it as required also, as long as they can get the waiver. I think we're fine.
Okay. All right. Okay. So let's see. Moving on. It's just item 12. I should include FEMA floodplain map. It was just wording. And then Jennifer, 14, commenting on the 20-inch caliper.
Yeah. So 20-inch caliper is the diameter of the tree around the tree at about 4.5 feet off the ground. So that's what caliper is. And I looked up some various different municipalities and counties, and they have significant trees anywhere from 6 inches to 2 feet. Most of the ones I had seen were around 10 inches. So I think that our initial 20 inches would not be burdensome for somebody to mark off, which are the significant trees.
Okay. Is everybody good with that? That we'll leave it as is, but at least now we have an understanding of what it's about and kind of where we fit with it. Okay. All
Sounds
right.
good, Jennifer. Thank you.
Well, thank you for doing that. Okay. And okay. Does anybody have any other comments on it? I think we've basically got that one all squared away.
Good.
Okay. All right. Let me know if anybody from the public appears, Jennifer.
Oh, yes. No.
All right.
There.
Okay. Attachment 4, minor subdivision preliminary plan. So again, the notary language will be changed. Well, I didn't know. When I went back to it, for item number 2, name of the proposed subdivision, I think on the first one I had indicated in the title block, and all the other ones I put just in the title block. If you want me to add the word indicated back in, I could do that. Let's see, moving on to FEMA floodplain map showing the entire parcel. That's under number 23. Then 25 that she had cited again was the environmental site assessment. We'll leave that as required. Because that would be the one then that, oh, this is for a minor.
Yes.
Do we do this one then
We
as
talked about it.
requested? Because this one was, it's at the discretion for minor rather than saying required. Requiring a phase 1 environmental site assessment for a minor subdivision was left to the discretion of the planning board. So I think we should change the wording for that one from required to if requested.
I have no objection to that.
Okay. Because it's only the major land developments that we're saying that it's required for. Okay, so now we get down to number 34. So this one went back and forth. For you see on item 12, it has names and addresses of adjoining communities or agencies requiring notification under these regulations. So that's under the existing, and that's a requirement. And I did just see it a little while ago, that's in Rhode Island general law, that's an item that's included. And then number 34 was the written reports or comments from adjoining communities or agencies requiring notification provided by the administrative officer. So I got confused because Jennifer, it seemed like in your opening paragraph, you said that's basically what you said, that the AO would be responsible for it. But then
Yes.
on here under 34.
I'm just saying that when it's a minor preliminary plan.
Yeah.
It doesn't go for public hearing or public information meeting. The adjoining communities aren't getting copies of the something that I'm doing, and usually only if it goes out to hearing, like public information hearing or public hearing, then it goes to then they get notified as well. But I'm just saying, in this particular case, minor preliminary plan.
Well, I think it says it because it says on 12, adjoining communities requiring notification under these regulations. So if they have a road or they require zoning,
right? Maybe
that does then require that it
is true,
right? So that
covers. So if it's not, then it's not, right?
Right. So if it's a simple minor subdivision, right, then you don't have to. It's only if it goes, oh, I see what you're saying. So if it goes for public hearing, that's when it would go to these adjoining things. But you're saying too that basically you as the administrative officer is responsible to contact these people. I mean, the two easiest ones, examples for adjoining communities would be, there's been a couple of instances where a parcel crosses the state line into Fall River. So we've required the applicant to contact Fall River.
Sure.
But I guess if it falls to the AO, that would speed up the process. And then the other one is agencies would be for basically anything that's in either non-quit or Stafford watershed. A lot of times we ask if they've contacted the water departments or they are aware of their plan for creating a subdivision so that they have the opportunity to weigh in if they have any objections. So I just want to cite those are examples of either adjoining communities or agencies that are the types of, I guess, the types of entities that would be contacted by the AO, right?
Let me see.
But you're saying only if a public hearing is required. And that's covered by saying
adjoining communities. I guess my point is that if I did send it to those agencies, the water department, it would be after the certification of completeness.
Right.
So I'm just clarifying that these checklists are for certification of completeness. And if you have something that says you have to get comments from an agency, so do you know what I'm saying? Like, I wouldn't say it was complete if I have to get comments, but I wouldn't go get comments and give it to the water department if it wasn't complete. So I'm just saying that maybe these should be notes or
would we add the wording that says prior to a preliminary?
Yeah, prior to approval or something like that.
That's what I did added to a lot of these that your comments were that so that it wasn't required in order to be certified complete, but noting that those items would have to be completed before that stage of review could be approved by the planning board. Right?
That sounds perfect.
Right. So everybody still with me here? So if we just change number 34 to add prior to preliminary plan approval, and And actually 35 would be the same thing,
Yes.
determination letter from the building and zoning official prior to preliminary plan approval. So it's just notifying I guess basically it's informing the applicant that it's going to be required. But that all of this stuff it's better if we get it when we first start reviewing it rather than having to like pull it out of them as we go through the process. But if they're on notice, like when she writes up the certificate of completeness of notes, she can cite all those kinds of things that are missing so that basically then they're on notice that they do need to supply that stuff for us, and hopefully then they'll have that information maybe by the first time that we review it to get the process going. And that's why this stuff's all kind of laid out there so they know what they have to supply to us.
It's certified as complete with conditions.
Yeah, that's what it means when we certify complete
Right.
notes. Yeah, that's one of the options.
Yeah, for the new, I'm saying it for the new members.
Oh, right. You're saying it's certifying it complete, but then there's always, with notes means there's all these items that are still remaining to be resolved.
The following conditions need to be addressed.
So that brings it to the planning board's attention that we need to look through those things and realize those things need to be satisfied during our review for approval. Okay, so I think that resolves those things. So then number 38, environmental review statement one. Let's see. So it's an ERS advisory letter of review. Let's see, what did I have? From the Tiverton Conservation Commission. Again, this would be prior to
approval or something.
Well, it's prior to, well, really we want this before planning board review, don't we? Because I think we usually don't want to start reviewing it until we have the conservation letter. I mean, we don't take that on until we get that because we want their guidance as part of our review.
Right.
So let's see, ERS advisory letter review from the Tiverton Conservation Commission. I had prior to planning board review, if the proposed subdivision lies within a primary watershed. I think that's what I did instead of saying prior to preliminary something approval. It was prior to planning board review.
Yeah.
So did that. Oh, and basically what it does is it's copying the language of the number 39. That's basically what it says. They're looking for the assent agreement from CRMC prior to preliminary plan approval. But here we're just saying prior to planning board review. As much as I could, I tried to copy language so it would always follow and get reiterated. Now number 45, we're trying to work that one because that's if they need the environmental site assessment. So I didn't know if it should be a written report or if we want to stick with written confirmation from DEM prior to preliminary plan approval. If a phase 2 environmental site assessment analysis and remediation plan has been reviewed and approved for the subject parcel. I think I was trying to work with some of the language that you had submitted, Jennifer. See number 45. So you're the contaminants around the site, a phase 2 must be completed within the remediation plan. So that's when, if phase 1 shows stuff, then they have to do phase 2,
Which means that they just go out and test.
They do boring.
Actually, where it is.
Phase 2 is nothing more than testing. Phase 3 is the remediation plan.
So if they have, so I have it written, it's written as prior to preliminary plan approval. If a phase 2 analysis and remediation plan is required, or remediation plan has been reviewed and approved for the subject approval, if required. It's saying, yeah, if required. I don't know, is this making sense?
It should be redrafted, Susan.
Right. All right. What we'll do is Jennifer and I'll rework this and we'll have it cleaner for you for the next go round. Okay.
Absolutely. Maybe we can do it by email tomorrow.
Yeah, I think
It needs to be, we need to use the correct language that makes sure we're not confusing phase 2 and phase 3.
Well, if they have phase 2, they have to do a phase 3, right?
Exactly.
Right. So the phase 2
It goes to phase 3 only if phase 2, the testing that's done in phase 2 shows an unacceptable level of contamination.
Right.
So it can end at phase 2.
Right. Right. All right. So yeah, that needs to be.
It usually does go on to phase 3, but theoretically it can end at phase 2 if the testing shows very minor contamination below the action levels.
Right. Okay. So we need to work on some revised wording for that.
I'll be happy to do that with you tomorrow.
That'd be great. Okay. Then
I assume that at the preliminary plan, if there was contaminants found, you'd want that whole remediation plan for approved. That's what I'm.
Oh yeah, definitely. That has to be done
for that.
Phase, yeah.
That's what I was.
If phase 2 is positive, that triggers the remediation plan, and that has to be written approval from DEM before we approve the preliminary plan. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. We just need to figure out how to put it in a small, concise sentence for a checklist. All right. All right. So going on 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, and 52. I think all those, Jennifer's comment was just basically to like written confirmation from the applicable water authority prior to preliminary plan approval. And basically after each item from the fire department prior to preliminary plan approval. So that's just saying they don't have to have all these written confirmations at the time that they submit the plan before it can be certified complete. It's just saying we need all this information before we approve the plans. So just inserting all that language. Okay, and then we get to problem child number 53. So that's where Mike weighed in again on the improvement guarantee, and basically it's number 52 is indicating that a public or a surety has to be submitted for road or stormwater management prior to preliminary plan approval. Number 53 was giving the applicant options. And then Mike submitted language, but the more I've been thinking about it as well, it's in the subdivision regulations. You know, this is usually kind of a catch-22 if we fall into this. And as I was thinking about more, I would like to just delete this item entirely from the checklist and not put it out there for the applicant to give them an option. It's in the subdivision regulations. If it's there and they want to go that route, they have that to fall back on. But otherwise, it's just basically clearly stating to them that if they have infrastructure, they need to submit a surety for review at the preliminary plan stage. And I think that would be simpler.
I agree with that. Simpler and cleaner.
Yeah, because I mean, the stuff that follows that, either of the following, that's basically what that's replacing. I found that very confusing and not enough information. So I think the thing to do with this would be just to eliminate that, if everybody's all right with that. After even the language, I read Mike's comments or his proposed language. It still gets complicated. That I think it's just going to be more trouble than it's worth at this point. Well, and it's only, and very few applicants ask to do that. So if they do, they can ask us, and they're within their right to do it, but it doesn't dangle it out there. Okay.
EMI.
Yes. That's okay. All right, so number 65 was the other item about the street lights. So Mike did suggest language for that as well. The first one, the first part of it, the final utilities, well, not final, but it could be proposed utilities plan for preliminary, including the locate, this extension location of all public and if applicable, private, i.e. wells, that it is. So basically he's just reworded what I had. I don't know if anybody has a preference which way you want to see it. I mean, I'll go back and change them all if you want to go with that language, or we can just leave the language because I have basically done the same thing. The second part of it where it starts going into street lights, because that's what the issue was with this one, what to do with street lights. And the thing is, I don't know if Mike had it or not, the amended subdivision regulations basically spells out what he has written down here. He refers to section 2358B. Acceptance of town council, otherwise approved by homeowners association required. Basically, that's what section 2358 covers. The planning board reviews, makes a determination, the number, proposed streetlight expense to maintain or repair shall be included in the homeowners association. The developer shall prepay for the lights. And the planning board may make recommendations to the town council for the installation of streetlights in existing developments. So I was kind of going with, rather than having all of that, I was going to have like a second sentence. I'm suggesting to say streetlights shall be reviewed and approved in accordance with section 2358B. To simplify that, because basically that's saying what streetlights is recommended in accordance with 58B. Then rather than putting in approved subject to final acceptance to town council and the homeowners association, that's in our subdivision regs. I don't know if we needed to have all that information in the checklist. So I don't know if people have strong feelings about either the first part of it, if you want me to rework the wording so it's the way he's recommended or suggested with the parentheses around it, or to leave it as it's on your existing one, and then just to make a second sentence for the street lights to revise the language. Either we could do it as he has suggested, or to shorten it just to say reviewed and approved in accordance with section 2358B. If people have strong inclinations which way they want to go with this, it was just basically to try and clarify it. For us and for Rick, for the DPW, on the checklist. It does still leave on there though the prepayment for the 36 months. I didn't delete that. That was a note. So you can tell me which way you want to do it, and we'll clean up the language for the next go around on this one. Anybody?
What's your recommendation, Susan?
Well, to save me typing all over again, because I can't cut and paste, to leave the first sentence as I have, and then just make the second sentence for the street lights. I could have street lights recommended in accordance with section 2358B, to keep it simple, because that covers the town council approving them and the homeowners association. I mean, we have the language in our subdivision regulations. It just shortens it. So
I agree. That's the way we should go, I think.
all right. So I'll rework that one, and we'll take the best wording of both of these and just do that. Okay, and for both the improvement guarantee one and the street light one, wherever those appear in subsequent checklists, I'll just carry that all the way through, so we don't have to review those again. Oh, and then there was a question about landscaping Jennifer had for a minor subdivision to say if it was required, are we requiring proposed landscaping? I mean, we can put if requested. Because it does seem maybe it's not reasonable to ask every minor subdivision, say like 3-house lot, to get a formal landscape architect doing a landscape plan, especially if there's nothing to landscape in particular. So if that's agreeable, we can change that to if requested. That could be at our discretion. Everybody's all right with that? Okay.
Yep.
I'm taking your silence as agreement.
Consent.
Yes.
Silent consent, okay. And I think that's all for that one. I don't know, was there anything I missed, Jennifer, on that one?
No, I think that's good.
Okay. All right. All right, so on that one, for the next time, I'll have the clean language for the notarizing, for the surety, and for the street lights. I think everything else we've got, oh, and the environmental site assessment. Yeah, we just need that language clarified. So we'll have, I mean, those are kind of the big ones. And so once we have it on that one, it'll follow through on all the others. So that one's pretty close to done. Okay. Number 5, the final plan. Again, will be all the same changes that we discussed previously. Okay, the only question would be, I'll be on this one. So item 24 is I just have written confirmation of a phase 1 environmental site assessment if requested. Would be under existing. Does that sound right? Written confirmation environmental site assessment. Instead of saying it review completed, I can say if requested. Does that sound all right, Jennifer?
I'm
Number 24.
sorry,
Oh, that's right. 24 on final plan. I'm just trying to
Okay.
figure, because if on a final plan for existing, we're only asking for a phase 1 site assessment if it's requested, right?
yes, for the minor, yes. Okay.
Right. So then when we get down to, let's see, so number 34 is probably where we need to reword the site assessment analysis and remediation plan. I
Oh,
don't know if that would be the same language as the preliminary plan. It probably would be.
yeah.
So once we get that on the preliminary plan, Stu, if you could take a look at that when you do the wording on the other one, and just see then if that falls through for it might be more information we need, because if we've got it on the preliminary plan, it's fairly well established on the final plan. It's just making an additional note of it. I don't know if we need it if it's done preliminary.
I think it's fine the way it is.
We don't have an environmental site remediation plan if required. All right.
Yeah, the remediation plan is phase 3. There's no contradiction here. It's exactly right the way you've got it now.
No.
Doesn't need to be changed.
Oh, I don't need to put phase 2, include phase 2 into it.
No. Phase 2 is nothing but nothing but testing.
Oh, well, good for me. Okay.
Yep, you've got it right.
I look. Okay. Okay, so 35, 36, 37, 39 again, are just inserting the words prior to final plan approval, like the applicable water authority, prior to final plan approval, fire department, prior to final plan approval. So we have all that. And then, so number 41 was in reference to, if, I don't know if we need it. Because that's the item that we're deleting, the second choice for surety on the preliminary plan. This is saying that if it's all, if they don't do a surety, they don't post a surety, then all the work has to be completed and inspected before final plan can be approved. I would just suggest deleting this, because actually I found it does say this in Rhode Island general law. I think it does say it in our subdivision regulations. So if somebody does propose doing the infrastructure prior to final plan, then we could just follow that through with it all has to be inspected and up to standard before they can get their final plan approval. Do you think we need it on the checklist? I'm kind of going with taking it out, simplifying things.
I'd take it out.
Okay. Okay. Oh, okay. Then we go to number 51. Again, the street light language. So that will just follow from the language that we get from the preliminary plan. And then 52 was, again, if requested, the final landscaping plan if requested. Okay, so this is Travis is still here. Okay, Travis, here's a question for you. We didn't get a response on this one. So number 54 refers to getting all the legal documents. So when we get to 55 and 56, I didn't know if these items would fall within number 54 or they have to be, there's different enough that they have to be pulled out and noted. Oh, there you go. Do you see 54?
We're still on written confirmation or permits, that 54?
No, well, final plan of a minor. When you get to 54, 55, 56, no, it has to do final copies of all legal documents.
Attachment 5.
What's that?
That's what I'm on.
5 is 2 signed copies of an irrevocable offer to convey all public streets. 56 is deeds transferring land proposed for conveyance to the town.
My list that I have here from Tara is it goes from attachment 4 to attachment 6. Is there a specific number 5 or still on number 4?
There's a 5.
I have a 5.
They're not in order.
You find attachment 5?
Yeah, I'm there. I got it.
Okay. So 54, 55, and 56. I just don't know if 55 and 56 would be inclusive of, or would be included the way 54 is written, or you have to have those, because those were there, those were existing, that was existing language. I don't know if we need to keep it.
Yep, I understand the question. Okay, so, all right, one second.
Well, obviously, a deed is a legal document that transfers the land. It's a little bit of a different document, right? I mean, you want to make sure that when the subdivision is recorded, that all the open space provisions or whatever are transferred to the town. Where the other stuff, I mean, it's kind of redundant, but I understand why you would separate it out too.
All right. I just didn't know legally. I figured if we could eliminate those, we can. But if you think they're both separate, specific enough that something might get overlooked if it's not specifically spelled out.
I mean, I think your language on the 54 could eliminate 56 because you say a landscaping maintenance plan, then you say a deed conveying open space or offer of street dedication, or any deed that conveys any portion of a land to the town of Tiverton. Really, it's not limited to those. I mean, would that be anything that was required? I can't think of anything else that might. It could be an easement, could be a lot of different things.
We have, the dedications wording.
Had a deed conveying open space in our street. Then you say irrevocable offer to convey to the town of Tiverton all public streets.
Right.
Like that.
So you're losing me. I don't know. Do you want some of that language in? Do you want?
Well, I'm just saying, I think 54 is so inclusive.
All right.
That you probably don't need 55 and 56. I mean, obviously the town is going to require us getting the deeds or whatever we need if it's open space or easements or whatever. I mean, that's just part of, again, these are guidelines. I mean, you're never going to anticipate be able to list every document that you may need according to subdivision. There could be. So
yes, but we do make it clear that we reserve the right, as the planning board, we reserve the right to request additional information if that information is needed for us to make reliable findings of fact. So we do cover that provision. I very much object to the term guidelines. I don't view the checklists as guidelines. I view the checklists as mandated information that the planning board must have in order to fully understand the application and in order to protect the town by making very reliable findings of fact.
If I may add, I think more is better than less, because in the past, we have had people come in and they haven't had all of the correct documents, and they're not all as astute as you are, Mike or Travis. I mean, and I think, again, it's a good checklist.
Yeah, the board just has to decide as a policy matter whether or not what they want to put. I mean, there's just no way, and I'm going to defer to the planner. There's just no way that a checklist is ever going to be able to contain every item that may be necessary in approval of a subdivision, a minor subdivision. It's almost, you know, it's almost impossible to do it, because there could be a unique feature of a subdivision, so that if you're going to treat it as a guide, if you're going to treat it as that, and there's something else that is necessary, then, well, I would make your argument, well, it's not in your checklist, I don't need it. I mean, so it goes either way. I get the reluctance to take these out of the regulations. I appreciate that's not my call. I would just mention, and I think we haven't even really discussed it, is that I think the town planner gave you a very good overview of what is done in other communities and why these checklists need to be flexible enough that you can change them to meet to meet changing circumstances with planning board approval, but without this necessity of going through this public hearing where you can say there's no one really paying attention to this anyway, but going through a public hearing like this to make these, like, some of these are minor changes. So for instance, if you want to change the number of copies that are being submitted to the planning board, you just put that in your guidelines, which you believe are regulations. And so, you know, if we want to change it from 12 to 20, we're going to have a public hearing on changing from 12 to 20. That's my point. A lot of these things mirror the regulations. No questions about it. Mirror your guidelines. But if that's what the board wants to do, that's your choice. I'm just here to let you know how other communities do it. And
well, we're Tiverton. We're not other communities. We get great cooperation from most of the applicants. They're very happy and willing to share with us any information that we request. But we do have applicants who are a bit reluctant to give us the full information that we really need to make a sound decision. If there's a concern about the cost to the town of an advertised public hearing, I understand that. But the fact of the matter is, we don't change our subdivision regulations or our checklists very often. In fact, I think it was about 15 years ago, the last time we had a major change in our checklists. And I think the last time we actually added something to the checklist was about 12 years ago. That had to do with endangered species in the Sin and Flesh Brook, a natural heritage corridor. And when we do have an advertised public hearing for the checklist, which is a very rare event, we almost always piggyback on a public hearing for other issues that have to do with changing zoning, for example, or changing a standalone ordinance that we have an interest in. So there's no real cost because we're combining several things into a public hearing. So I would urge my colleagues to maintain our checklist, to give it some legal teeth by maintaining it as part of our subdivision regulations, rather than make it something that is not part of our regulations and would simply be guidelines. That's all I have to say on that.
Okay. All right. I just want to get back to the checklist for now. I think where I'm looking at this some more, I would be, based on what you guys are saying, delete 56, maybe keep 55. Because the deed transferring and all that seems like that's part of, that would be easily covered in 54. The other one might just be there as a little more information. It might trigger something that somebody would say they specifically need. So, and just have it say final copies instead of 2 copies. I don't know why they want 2 signed copies. It'd be final copies. So that would be my suggestion, would be keep 55 and eliminate 56. You know, anybody have strong burdens of either getting rid of 55 or keeping 56? No? Okay. So we'll go with that for now. I think that's all. So I think with that one, we just need to do the streetlight language, get that cleaned up, and maybe that was it. Maybe that was the only thing that was really outstanding. So we'll get a clean copy of that one for next time. Okay, attachment 6. Okay, here's another one for discussion with the 20 copies. Again, Tara made her comments about that was a lot of copies. So I don't know if you guys want to adjust those to 12 or 10 or a different number. I would propose 12 again. I think that's plenty of copies, especially if we're getting 24 by 36-inch set of plans. I think that's probably, 6 more copies than we need, but we have them if we should need them for something. So if everybody's all right with that, we'll go with 12 and 12 for the set of plans and paper copies. We'll change the language for the notary. Oh, okay. We get down to 26. Any comments from the Ad Hoc Technical Review Committee? I don't know, Jennifer, do you want to speak to that? Your comment?
Yes. So normally we do the development plan review at the preliminary plan stage, and at that point we do the ad hoc technical committee meeting. So I don't think that the meeting would be required for the master plan application.
But I guess, yeah, reading it again more today after reading the comments, it was like, I mean, the technical, you want to get the department heads together to review everything, and it's probably most productive at the preliminary plan stage. So, I mean, I would be all right with eliminating it from the master plan.
Jennifer, I see where you're coming from, and I agree, because when we get to the preliminary plan stage, that's when we want all of the technical, specific, detailed engineering information, environmental information. But wouldn't it actually be a benefit to an applicant to go through the technical review committee process at an earlier stage, so that they are put on notice that the fire chief wants this, or the fire marshal wants that, or the police chief wants the other thing, or DPW wants something, so that they know from the very beginning of the process what certain town officials are going to, demand. That was my only thought. I don't have a feeling about it. And Jennifer, I see where you're coming from, and I thought you made a good point. But Susan, you've been an AO. Do you have the opinion that having it done at an earlier stage would actually be a benefit to the applicant by giving them a little bit of advance warning?
Well, I think, yeah, from I'm thinking back on some major land developments like the casino or some of the big projects. I think it was
Yeah.
a way that we used to get all the department heads together. I don't know if you can conduct a department head meeting to get like the fire chief and water and sewer and, you know, everybody together to review a site plan. And police, if you don't call it an ad hoc technical review TRC meeting. And I think then it is probably more generic. It's like a review of the overall plan. I think we even did it for Advantage Storage, didn't we? When we addressed, because we addressed the propane tanks and the fencing, and a lot of times it's the road. But I get, like, when you talk about technical review, that's basically then to go through all the engineering and all that in more detail.
There is sort of an issue because you have an ad hoc technical committee that you have to appoint them.
Right.
So, I mean, you could do it at concept plan, but you'd more likely do it at the master plan stage. But you're right, maybe we...
Or my other question is, reading in subdivision regs, I mean, there's a lot of reference to pre-application meetings. So I haven't done enough of those. I mean, what does a pre-application mean? Does that address some of those issues that would be done kind of at the master plan?
Pre-application meeting is your concept meeting. That's the same. That's the same thing.
I mean, I don't know if we change it to if requested, or, you know, it's like maybe it's not a required thing, because I was looking even in Rhode Island general law to just see what they had, where if they put it anywhere, and they just have it very open. It just kind of talks about it, but it doesn't ever say when at any point in time that it's required. It's very loose as far as that. So I don't know if we leave ourselves the option to say if requested, so that way if we have, like say if that big Sousa Road one, you know, the corner of, not Sousa, Main and Fish comes through, that big condo thing. I mean, maybe that would be a time that would be appropriate to have.
Let's see.
Inform or TRC. I think it's a way that we use to get department heads together to review a large project. We don't do it for any small project. We don't do it for minor subdivision. It's just basically when we get the big stuff.
Well, maybe you could say written comments if, you know, if you had the meeting. I don't know how you would write that, but the ad hoc meeting. Because right now it just says written comments. But then again, maybe it's...
Oh, written comments. Written comments are the notes. I mean, you could say written notes. I mean, because that's what you do for the TRC, are notes. They're not done as minutes.
Right.
Written notes.
I guess they can just say NA, like they haven't had that meeting yet. If they didn't.
Oh,
you know?
Oh, I see.
I'll be here. I'll be listening, but I have to move to a different location because my husband works at night, so I have to move where I am.
I'm just wondering if we put it if requested, and that leaves it open for them. Talk about it with Jennifer some more. We'll have something to read it for the next time, unless anybody has any other burning push on where it goes. I mean, I think it definitely is appropriate for preliminary plan. By final plan, everything should be wrapped up. Plan review would require it. I don't think we'd ever call for one for a minor subdivision. So basically, it's probably just major land developments that would require one, where we saw that maybe there were issues with roads, sewer, water, cisterns, that kind of thing. Or like we did ones for the solar projects because they were new and we wanted everybody to weigh in on it for comments.
Excuse me, Susan.
What's that?
I'm going to have to go. My battery is dying.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, written reports. Number 27. I'll have to wait for you to get back. I think, didn't we on the last one decide to just leave the written comments from Joint Communities Agency as is? The comprehensive permit supplement. Okay, so number 28 is somebody, if somebody's going, this is only for a major subdivision, major land development, somebody's going to do a comp permit. It was basically asking them at this stage, if they're planning to do one, then they need notifying them that they need to fill out complete attachment 14 as well. So if they aren't obviously going to do a comprehensive permit application, or just do an NA. Number 29 again would be prior to master plan approval. So that follows through the same. Now, what's number 30? Oh, it's Jennifer's back. There she is. So number 30 was providing a narrative, a description if a waiver is to be requested. So a waiver is something that an applicant asks the planning board for, that's based on a subdivision regulations.
Right.
That's what's referred to. She had a question if it was a variance or a special use permit, but it's not. It's definitely, it's a waiver. And I would like to leave it where it is rather than moving it up to the narrative, because I had, the previous one is a determination from the zoning official if any zoning relief needed to be, was being requested or required. So that's why I followed that with, if a waiver was going to be requested at the planning board, then that's why I put it in that spot. Are you back, Jennifer?
Yes, I'm here. I'm hearing it.
Well, does that make sense to you? Where
Just walking around my house.
I don't know if that makes sense where what I was doing with the waiver, or if we still need to reword this.
Yeah, I just wanted to make, I know what a waiver is. I just wanted to make, like, I wasn't sure if that's what the planning board, if you meant a waiver.
Right. Well, should we say that a narrative description of if a waiver is to be requested from the planning board or by the planning board? Maybe I need to qualify it by saying by the planning, if requested
By the planning board.
by the planning board, just to make it clear.
If a zoning waiver, is that what you,
No.
in Jennifer's comments, so.
Yeah, I know, but that's a zoning relief if it's an ordinance, and that's different than a waiver.
Okay.
We're saying a waiver is something that we can waive waivers, but we can't waive ordinances.
Land use.
Right. So again, 31, I just added after a building official or designee prior to master plan approval. I think I did that was 33. After the Tiverton Conservation Commission, I said prior to planning board review again. 34 has prior to master plan approval for the consent agreement. What is number 35? Did a question?
Yeah, I think I wasn't clear in what you had written.
So also, yeah, this is just talking about subdivision soil suitability. It's just the DEM, that's the section, but it's not asking for OWTS.
It's not, okay.
It's asking for the subdivision soil suitability, which I believe is what you asked for at master plan. Yeah, prior to master plan approval. Do we need to alter the wording to 36? Written confirmation of a phase 1 environmental site assessment.
Written confirmation of a.
Because that's included in the site analysis. So here I just had that this was providing that assessment. I don't know, I had written down if requested. I don't know if we want that.
Yes, you were saying a written confirmation.
Or it'd be a written
I
report.
think you want the assessment. I think you want it. The document.
Right, so what will we say, a written report instead of written confirmation?
Yeah, yeah.
Report of a phase one environmental site assessment. I don't know why I put if requested, because I think,
Not for master plan, right? You wanted that required.
right. And again, so 37, 38, 39, or again, just adding the wording prior to master plan approval. And then, okay, so number 40 about Tiverton wastewater. Jennifer, your comment, we were talking about, but I just want to, either we move it to preliminary plan, this item, because you're saying, do you want to just explain to the
Yes. So I went to talk to Tiverton wastewater district people, and they actually would like to come in and speak with the planning board at some point. They feel that they don't have that much personnel to review multiple times plans, so that they've asked that not until something is approved in some stage that they will look at it. I think this happened with Advantage Storage. We were looking at that and we wanted feedback from them, but they didn't even want to spend the time to look at it. And I think that's just, they don't want to use their engineer. They don't want to pay for their engineer if it's not going to be approved.
I guess my question with it is, though, wouldn't we want to know early on if they couldn't do sewer hookup rather than approving a master?
Right. So maybe we have them come in sooner rather than later to talk about how this process could.
I'm wondering if, we just need to know if sewer is actually even feasible for this for the application. I mean, because if we don't even contact them, maybe that's one of the things, like you have a contact to it's on the list to contact other agencies, town agencies. Maybe that just involves, like you say, this is proposing such and such on this parcel, is sewer available to them.
Right.
It would just be them verifying the fact. But it seems like even at master plan, we're going to want to know, because how could we approve a master plan if they're putting it in a location where they're never going to get sewer hookup?
Right. Yes.
So that's my question is, I guess what we could do is try to figure out some different wording. Because I thought, if we just totally eliminate it from the master plan, I mean, because this is for major land developments.
Right.
You have to know something. We have to know if they're like 2 miles and sewer, then they have to know they have to do it on site treatment, if they can't do sewer.
Well, I think we need to work with wastewater. They probably, if we work together, we could figure out what they would be able to do. But you're right. I mean, you need to know something.
It gives them a heads up as far as what's coming down the pike. I mean, in the past, that's all it ever was, a letter. Yes, we can provide it. But if they're coming and it's not even in their area, it lets us know too.
Right, and that's basically what we get with water on the master plan is, yes, they can provide connection.
Right.
They don't ever address other stuff until it gets more technical, but they are saying that they can provide connection to their water system. So I think at master plan, that's probably what we would be looking for. That it wouldn't be a determination letter, but it would be more like written confirmation that connection to Tiverton wastewater
is available, or
is available. And that would just be a simple letter from them. That's not them reviewing plans. That's based on location and like the size of the project. I mean, even the size of the project, they have so much capacity. It's probably not an issue, going to ever be an issue, but I think, So, all right, so we'll get some rewording on that one, but I think, we should keep it there. but well, I have something that's saying that they're able to provide connection for the proposed development.
I think that's good, yeah.
Written, it would be more like written confirmation from the Tiverton wastewater district that is able to provide the connection for the proposed development. That's all we're looking for, right? Yeah. Okay. And with that, you don't have to submit them the plans. It'll be an abbreviated version.
Yeah.
Okay.
Run it by them.
Okay. Yeah, if there's any changes, we can do that before we put the wording in there. So 41 was just adding prior to approval. 51, I was just adding for the traffic study, including prior to master plan approval, a traffic study, because we don't always have that at the outset. Sometimes it takes a while to get them to provide that. Oh, and then 54 would be putting in the street light language. So that one needs to be revised. I think we're going to leave the proposed landscaping and maintenance plan for that one. If they want to waiver from that, they can request it. I think we should require it for major subdivisions and major land developments. I think that pretty much cleans that one up. All right. Are they still good? On the edge of your seats, I know. Okay. Number 7 is we change that number to 12. That's we'll do this notary language. And again, when we get down to number 27 for the ad hoc, probably to add the language just saying if requested, that a written ad hoc technical committee, rather than allowing the applicant to say not applicable, we could leave it open to saying if requested. Is that all right, Jennifer?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh yeah, and then your 28 and 29 again, I think we already addressed.
Same, yeah.
Those. And I don't know if you were offline then, Jennifer, just saying, you know, the comprehensive permit supplement is just strictly, you know, if they're not applying for a comp permit, it would just be an NA, but it's there
Okay.
for them. Okay, so number 34, I think based on your comment, I had written confirmation from the RID and wetlands section prior to preliminary plan certificate of completeness. Yeah, because you had commented that this is required, that the wetlands are flagged at preliminary plan. So my approval, they have to. So by the time they get to preliminary plan, their wetlands need to be flagged. So we need, before we could sort of, you're saying before you could do a certificate of completeness, they need to supply that as part of their application. Is that correct?
Written confirmation of the wetlands prior to.
Prior to preliminary plan certificate of completeness instead of approval.
Yes, yes.
Okay. And I think 35, I get what you're saying, again, prior to preliminary plan certificate of completeness.
Yeah, because if it's prior to approval, you're applying for, yeah.
Right, and then again in 36.
Yeah.
Is that prior to certificate
Same
of
thing.
completeness also? Okay, and also in 37.
Yes.
Okay, all right, so those are the things. 38. Okay, this is the environmental site assessment stuff again. Oh, same as the minor, I thought same as minor preliminary plan. So once we get that, we can adjust that language, right? That works? Okay. And then again, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43. Well, 42 again is adding prior to preliminary plan approval after each of the apartments. Okay, so I don't know what language you want for number 43 from the Tiverton wastewater district prior to preliminary plan approval. I don't know if you want something other
Able to,
more than it is able to support the connection and
yeah,
connection and sewer demand. I mean, is that what we want? Preliminary plan.
yeah.
Connection and sewer demand. Okay, because by then they'll have the technical, all the land use technical stuff. So from that, they should be able to tell what they're doing. Again, 44 is adding prior to preliminary plan approval. Why did you see that 46? Let's make a note. Make a note at the bottom and check this before approval. Okay. Oh, I have that. Oh, I had that in there. That's already in there. Again, 47 is prior to preliminary plan approval. 48, we're going to delete because that's the option. And 59 was just word change. 65 is changing the street light language. I'll get that cleaned up. That's everything for that one. Anybody see anything else on that one? Nope. Okay. Number attachment 8, this is the final plan. So this is 12 copies again. All the same changes, previous. Again, it was just from 25 and 26, just not adding if applicable because I'll put NA if it's not. Again, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31 in the appropriate places added prior to final plan approval. 32 will get deleted. That's the surety comments. 39 and 40, 41, again adding prior to final plan approval. 44 is the streetlight wording to be adjusted. And again, 45 through 49 has prior to approval. So it's 50. Oh, so now we're back to 51 and 52. I think based on what we talked about for minor, we'll keep 51. We'll change 2 signed copies to final copies. And then delete the 52, the D transferring land from people agency to open space. That's pretty much covered by the other one. I think that pretty much clears all that up. Everybody still with me? Okay. Attachment 9. Now we're into new territory here. I realized, okay, checklist for, so change the heading. What was there? Checklist for commercial industrial development, site plan, design plan review. Jennifer was pointing out the wording. So I looked it up and what it is in the regs. It's checklist for development plan review.
Development plan review.
Development underneath. Right.
Should be development plan review or?
Yeah, well, I'll cross out site plan design. And you call it, because that's how it's listed in the subdivision regulate or the ordinance. In the ordinance, it's listed as development plan review.
Yes.
You know, the subheadings are site plan and design plan review. And then I'll have commercial industrial development, because that's what it's applicable to.
Mm-hmm.
12 copies, they're very good with that instead of the 20. So both of those, the notary will change that. So we're below between 18 and 19. I'm putting that So there's two distinctions between if this is a major land development checklist, a lot of those items are included in that. If it's a pre-existing commercial, industrial, or industrial edition, like what we did with the cheese shop, it's a standalone checklist. So I tried to make, otherwise, most of these things are included as part of a major land development until you get to design review. So that's why I written between 18 and 19 for existing items 19 through 28, if it's a pre-existing structure. If it's a major land development, all those items are included in the major land development checklist attachment. Oh, the site analysis attachment 3. So they can just put C, yeah, they can put, I don't know what they can put. Put something, but I mean, they don't need to supply it twice. And then I think for number 25, the phase 1 environmental site assessment will be, if we want that if requested, not required. I mean, for major land developments, it'll apply. For a design plan review, are we saying that it's mandatory? Sue, where are you on this? Or that would be a if requested? That's number 25. So I don't know if you want to keep that wording as if requested.
This would be like cheese wheel or something, right?
Right, right. So that would apply to the cheese wheel. So that's when it would be if requested. If it's on the site and attachment 3, I think it's required, isn't it? I mean, I think it's you could always just say it's required. Yes, we want you to do it and tell them they have to do it. Unless you want to keep it as required and we give them a waiver. Which way is better? Anybody?
You're getting tired, Sue.
No. Most of this stuff is all the same going through.
Yeah, we're almost done.
We're almost there. So I can clean all these up and we can vote on them next time. Stu, do you want to go if requested or required? Number 25. You want development plan reviews to ask for a waiver if they don't have to do it?
Are you asking me?
Yeah. You're the one that had the strongest opinion about requested versus required.
I'd say required.
Okay. Required.
That's my opinion.
They can always ask for a waiver. Okay.
Okay.
Right. And then, so when you get down to site review, these specific items under site review again, oh, I got my numbering wrong. It's 33 through 69. These have to be on the site plan if it's a pre-existing structure. If it's a major land development, all these items would be incorporated into the master preliminary plans. So they don't have, basically these don't just apply if it's a site design review, all these items. So I guess I got to add items 33 to 69 are included in major land development checklist so that they don't have to include them again. And do the ad hoc if requested. You want if requested. Determination letter prior to approval. Again, all the same. Prior. $39 would be prior to approval when it applies to a development plan review. You have to have that.
Yeah, prior to approval or review. Right?
Prior, what? Do you want it as approval or review? What should it be?
An ERS advisory letter from conservation. So you want them to go to conservation before you review it? Correct? Yes.
So the plans get submitted to us and then we submit them to
conservation.
We want their response before we review it.
Right. So before review.
Board review. Okay. Okay, number 46 is the environmental site assessment stuff again. Is the minor subdivision checklist. Does that language work? Let's do a look at that one. 46, we could look at it and see if the language from the minor and the major land development works. I think we just have to adjust that language to fit that for phase 2. But again, all the next items again are prior to approvals. Number 50 was
Wastewater.
Again, I had something about connect to the project, the project connection. I mean, do we want to use the same wording I had under the major land development master plan? I mean, we just want to know if they can connect to the project, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll ask them if that's an issue.
I'll see the master plan, major land development. I think that was the wording that we thought worked. Again, adding all the prior. And then item 55 will be deleted. That's the bugaboo surety. Again, 64 is added prior to approval, the stormwater management plan. Utilities plan will do the street lights, the same language. That was 68. And then we get to design review. That applies to both major land development and one's just going for simply a site or design plan review. Design plan review, that's what Cheese Wheel was required. They didn't require site plan review, just design review. So those are the elements that we got from there. Everybody okay with that? Just those languages. Attachment 10. Oh, as-built drawings. Ugh. Okay.
So
have to talk about it. I don't know why. How did this come up? It's like I never really paid attention to it because I didn't really know how any of this would work. And now, so today I was kind of looking at it. Is it from your stuff? Oh, where's your last page? Oh, here it is. So then I go, oh, this needs to be revised. So I think we should do. And I looked this up in Rhode Island general law too for as-built, and it doesn't give a lot of guidance. And neither does, oh, it's section 2373. Yeah, it's like one paragraph. It doesn't really spell it out at all. So I think what I need to do is have Rick take a look at this, because I get your comment for initial and final as-built drawings, because when I looked at it, I go, oh, we never do initial as-built drawings. And the final, so when I was looking at that, basically all except number 8 of the initial is included in the final.
Plans?
The final, yeah, the final as-built after completion of all improvement each phase. So I would add that into it, but then I think I went to Rhode Island general law. I was looking at some stuff. So I think there is maybe just a little more to make sure we're not overlooking stuff, because I really didn't have Steer review this and I didn't have Rick review it. So if we can catch this up on the next one.
Well,
if I may, I think this came about years ago when we were having problems, and one of our former superintendents sat down with a group of us from the planning board and some developers and other individuals and came up with something, because there were issues in a couple of developments. So this doesn't mirror state state guidelines.
Yeah, and reading it today, basically what it is, it's saying it's to show how once the project is completed, any construction changes that have occurred basically to infrastructure or location of things since the plan was recorded.
Yes.
And that's what it's supposed to reflect, changes from when it was recorded to what is existing. Oh, section 2373 says for all improvements to the land, roads, drainage, etc., You know, so basically what they usually look at are roads, you look at boundary markers, I think you probably look at utilities, drainage, and that kind of stuff, but I just,
We had some issues where the roads were off center. We had issues where the boundaries, somebody had come in and moved boundaries. So it was a help, and it's a record, but it's not recorded. It's,
right,
and then we had issues. We kept one copy in the planning board office and another copy at DPW. And then they had a fire at DPW and they lost their records.
oh,
So it's an important document for, and I think Rick would be the one that could, give a good overhaul to it.
right, so Rick, do you have this attachment 10?
You chopped out a little bit, Susan, but are you asking for my comments on as-built?
Yeah, I think, yeah, no, I think we're not gonna do it tonight because we really haven't done it, but yeah, I'd like to have you, give you time and we can put these back into the works the next time. Because they're pretty simple, but I think it would be nice to get these updated correctly and specific to what you would be looking for, because basically it's for your use, right? I mean, it's documenting changes, but it's something that you probably utilize the most. It shows roads, streetlights, and utilities, and sidewalks, and lot lines, and that kind of stuff. So I just want to give you opportunity to take a little time and look through it. And then, we can, and once you get your comments, if you send them to me, then I'll incorporate them into this so we can look at them the next time.
Thank you, Susan, and along with your comments and Rosemary's, I would like to give some feedback on that. And one thing I would say is, if it's very simple, what is helpful instead of a new set of plans is simply redline. And that's what consultants, engineers, surveyors do quite often now, is you simply redline the couple of changes. Now, anybody can easily see without having to try to figure out if the plan has changed from A to Z, whether it just changed a little bit from A to B. And the other thing is, along with what Rosemary was saying, if there's major changes, then they should be recorded or at least reviewed by the DPW, the planner, the planning board chairman, et cetera, to see if they should be recorded. Because if there are major changes, a lot of people look at the recorded plans and rely on those and may not know there's as-built where the center line of the road shifted or some such, as Rosemary mentioned about some road changes. So I think some may want to be recorded.
Well, I think that's why they're so critical, Rick, before we make a recommendation for a road to be accepted by the town too. I mean, I think your point is well taken about the recording. And I'd be glad to help you out if I could with some of these things.
Thank you.
I'm gonna ask Travis, we're not overstepping if we require these to be recorded?
Well, I don't think you could record a red line. You'd still have to go with the Mylar.
I'm just wondering if we have, because I think it doesn't say that they ever get recorded. So I don't know if we're overstepping if we require applicants to record them.
You're talking about overstepping these.
Well, our authority to require applicants to record as-built.
No.
It's not in the regulations at all.
Yeah, Jen.
I know, I'm wondering if, as we're going through revising regulations after we finish this, could we incorporate it, or are we still overstepping, I guess, Rhode Island general law?
Could we amend the final plan, Travis? And put in a statement on there what the reasoning is?
Honestly, Jen, do you have an answer on this? I don't know. Off the top of my head right now.
The thing is, as-built plans are usually building department and then DPW after it goes out of the planning board's hands. Because if you were to amend the final plan, then wouldn't you have to go through a final plan amendment? I mean,
Right.
it's more up to Bill to look up whether it's accurate to the plan. I mean,
Bill Moore?
yes. Mhm.
Well, it's true. Once we record a
Once
plan,
it's, yeah, it's in his
under our
ballpark.
Right.
So once they've done all this construction, I mean, it seems like it's for
You
documentation.
say you want to change your regulations to require the as-built, but
Well, I don't say require them. I'm saying if to require that they be recorded. That's what I don't know if we can do that. I think there's something we could think about for the next time when we get
Yeah.
something, we look at them and say, and if we could, Travis, I don't know if you could look into it or just figure out where we do it. Like if we do this, I mean, because we're also going to amend subdivision regulations if we put it in our subdivision regulation, but I don't know if we're overstepping Rhode Island general law, if we can do it.
I'll get an answer on that definitively.
Yeah.
Some
Alright.
kind of a vehicle to get it recorded somewhere.
Okay. All right. So we'll put a hold on that one. Number 11 is simply the application cover sheet that I revised a little bit. I don't know. I just felt like reformatting it and I added a couple things. I guess what I didn't do in red was I added email and phone number for all the people that sign this thing because we need point of contacts. And then I put the notary language. I need to put what we've come up, what Mike's proposed that we are accepting. So I do that. I just need to clean that up, but that's yeah, the big one was I added comprehensive permit. I just kind of, before it was all kind of jumbled together a lot, so I just kind of reformatted it. Okay. Number 13 is environmental review statements. So this was based on the ordinance, Article 8. And what we had before, you see the black, the existing environmental review statement, basically was a discussion, a narrative, but it didn't ever clearly spell out all the things that we look for on every site plan that we get. So I thought we needed to get this in our checklist so that we're not always having to like pulling teeth from applicants saying, well, we need to see this and we need to see this. I think, yeah, so changing the notary language, then all these items are included that are basically on master plan list. So then you see the language from the environmental review statement checklist that we currently have. You see it's not a lot. What else? Number 23 was a phase 1 environmental site assessment if requested, because that was on that site analysis map that it was at our discretion. So if we decide that, or we know that that lot has a history, especially because these are in the watershed, and we can propose that.
Susan, you have 222s.
Yes, I do. My computer failed me. My computer can't count. Okay. All right. All right. Okay. Yep. I know. I don't know why. Most of the time it does the numbering. It corrects for that. Now, Jennifer, when you get down to the stuff, you're talking about adverse. So the means and estimated cost necessary to minimize adverse environmental impacts. That's in number 35. And also in 29, a statement of both the favorable and adverse environmental impacts. I don't know, should this not be there?
Let's see.
Because we don't want environmental impacts. What did you put? Yeah, number 35, there shouldn't be adverse environmental impacts.
Yeah, I'm thinking if you have an ERS, you're gonna do something I'm just saying
I know,
minimum
yeah.
environmental impacts. I mean, if there are any, I hope there isn't.
Well, I know, so looking at 29 first, it's saying a statement, this is the existing language, a statement of both the favorable and adverse environmental impacts of the proposed project. We're saying that what the project is it may contribute to adverse environmental impacts, which we don't want, or we want.
Right, you don't want that.
So should we, I mean, that language.
Well, I'm just saying if, I'm just using if there were adverse impacts, then you have to, I was just.
Right.
You could put NA. I mean, that was my point.
I know, but are they going to describe adverse environmental impacts of what they're proposing?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't want it. You're going to let them do it if it has adverse environmental impacts?
Well, it seems like we do.
I don't know. I think I'm getting tired. I don't know. So do you have ERSs where you have adverse environmental impacts and you're approving them? I'm just asking. Like,
I know, that's why I put for 35 that it was related more to adverse environmental impacts during construction, or if you want to sit it up.
Oh, yes.
And post construction. I mean, yeah, I mean, you don't want adverse environmental impacts, but if we relate it to means of estimated cost, that's the way I always read it, the means of estimated cost to minimize adverse environmental impacts during construction. Seems like that's what we would be more looking.
You mean like erosion controls? That makes sense. Like,
Right.
yes. Okay, that makes sense. I was just.
I mean, would that work then to just put during construction?
Yeah.
And eliminate and post.
Post construction was making me think like you were having ongoing adverse impact. Yes.
Oh, number 25, or I mean 29 says that. You want a statement of both favorable and adverse environmental impacts of the proposed project, include short and long-term effects on and off-site impact.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of a case. Do you remember any cases?
Where we would allow well, this is the ERS that they're discussing adverse environmental impact of the proposed project. I think, wouldn't they have to then come up with how they're going to mitigate it?
Yes. I guess the post construction was making me. I think honestly, I think the reason you have it in your checklist on 29 is to make them say if there is any adverse impacts. And then you're going to kind of work with them to mitigate them or make them not happen.
Okay.
I mean,
and the means and costs.
I'm thinking too much about this.
Well, I think that's usually what they do in their application is saying how they're going to how much it's going to cost them to minimize adverse impacts during construction, because I think usually what they refer to is like the soil erosion control measures.
Right, that makes sense. Yes.
And how much that costs them. Let's see. Written reports or comments from adjoining communities. Determination letter. Well, prior to approval. Advisory letter prior to planning board review. I think I had all that stuff in there. Oh, and then I don't know if number 44, I don't know if that needs to be reworded. I don't know, Stu, if you could take a look at that and let me know, or Jennifer, I'm getting too tired to think about it now. If that's right wording or it needs to be fixed for the site assessment stuff. I still don't have an answer on excavation of any kind that occurs within 50 feet of a water course or water body requires DEM approval. I mean, I came across that somewhere and I put it in there. I don't know if it's
where are you now, Susan? What number?
44.
Oh, 44.
44 and 45.
Yeah, 44 is just the environmental
I
site.
think I'm just going to eliminate 45.
You're going to eliminate 45?
Well,
You're just saying that it requires DEM approval.
yeah. Oh, you want to leave it in?
I take it out. I don't know how it got here in the first place.
I found it. I came across it somewhere. I don't remember where now, but I read it somewhere and I go, oh, that's very interesting. So I put it, I don't know if in the ordinance or if it was.
Isn't it in the watershed or some, I've read it somewhere too now. I can't think of where it is.
In Article 8, the environmental review, it's probably in there. I just don't know if it's true. I don't know. I mean, I asked Joe Cardello about this a couple months ago and he didn't know. And he said he'd look into it, but I never got a response. So I just don't know if it's true or not.
I just take it out. I don't think it belongs in the checklist in any case.
Okay.
It's something that we need to address when we review the subdivision regulations themselves.
Okay. All right. So the next items, 46 through 52 are all prior to approvals, is prior to the ERS approval. I put number 52, I had prior to approval or issuance of a building permit, because that would apply if it's a house that's in a watershed, then we do an ERS on it, but we don't do a plan review. Oh, so that's what happened with the Indian Rocks, the car one. We did an just an ERS on it. We didn't do a site plan review. So before they can get a building permit, they have to get they have to get all this done. Oh, and
I think my comment was funds are required prior to, well, that would make sense.
Right.
I'm saying what in the checklist, you're saying written confirmation from DPW that this funds are required. I mean, like, I'm just even have the surety. I mean, you don't even know how much the surety is until they come to the meeting. Confirmation.
Well, if it comes to us, will we set up the surety? See, I'm just trying to think. I don't think we've ever done a surety for
ERS.
An infrastructure surety. I don't know, whatever one would, well, I guess for a large project, it would apply. I mean, if ERS, for a major land development, if it's part of that, but I don't know, maybe it's not appropriate to be in there. I don't get too tired. Let's think about
I would say written confirmation from Director of Public Works. Do you want the surety to be looked at before you review the ERS? Is that?
I don't know.
That's a lot. Like normally when.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to think. Do we? Yeah, no, I don't think so.
I mean, that's something you talk about right? That you talk really at the meeting or after.
If I may interject also, you may discuss it a little bit, but you wouldn't want to set the surety until the ERS is done and you know what it's going to be.
That makes sense.
Right. But if it's a surety with a major land development, that would be part of that. It wouldn't even be part of the ERS. I'm just trying to think of a standalone. Like we didn't ask for a surety with Mr. Carr. I don't know if it's not even appropriate to ever put a surety in there. I don't know if the building office does that or not. If he would ask for road or stormwater management funds related to an ERS, maybe it's not even appropriate.
I haven't thought of an example where it is yet.
I know. I'm thinking just deleting it now that I'm looking at it. I don't know why I put it in there, but it doesn't, looking at it now, it doesn't seem to make sense to me that because if you do any sureties, it's going to be part of a land development project.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's something that's going to be in the building office, they're going to, I don't know if they even require sureties for building individual houses.
No.
Yeah, all right, I'm going to delete it. I can't think of it a situation.
I think you should delete it.
Yeah. Okay, delete. Okay. Then number 63, I'll propose landscaping and maintenance plan. I just put if requested. So it's not saying that one is automatically required. And all right, let's see, the second paragraph, this application is deemed complete for the purpose of commencing planning board review. Uh-oh. I don't know what that means. My battery getting low? Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's still recording. I think the battery on the digital recorder is getting low. So we're almost done. Application deemed complete for purpose of commencing, review.
Yeah, I'm saying you wouldn't want to say
Oh, it's the
that it's complete.
I think it was just to eliminate that comment, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I put see checklist number 3. I don't know which checklist number 3. I reference back to that. It is, this application is deemed complete for commencing review by the planning board.
Yeah, that's attachment 14, which is.
Oh no, that's what I put on attachment 3 for site plan review. This application is deemed complete for commencing review by the planning board.
Yeah, I'm saying that if they're filling out this application, I don't want to say that's the only application you have to fill out if you have a comprehensive permit.
Oh, right.
See what I'm saying? Like they need to fill out other things.
Oh, right.
Supplement to that. So we wouldn't
want to just delete that sentence?
Yes.
Okay.
And the same thing, I said to delete the certification only because, again, I don't want to certify that this application is complete because it's in addition to something else, a master.
Are you on attachment 14?
You know what I'm saying?
Are you on attachment 14 now?
Yeah, I'm on 14.
Sorry. Oh, I was still on 13.
I had no problem with the end of 13.
Oh.
I think yeah.
Oh, so end of 13 was okay.
14. I mean,
okay.
That's what I was talking about.
Oh, all right.
13 is fine. Mm-hmm.
Okay, 14 is, okay. So that's saying, so we'll go back to 14, starting again. So 12 copies, the notary change, all this other stuff. Actually, this is, so all this stuff, additional submission requirements, I pulled out of the ordinance for low and moderate income housing. The only one I had a question with was number 12. It's saying that subsequent to master plan approval, submit those items included in the preliminary plan checklist with the exception of evidence of state or federal permits. So subsequent, I was saying prior to submit those items. Well, maybe that's all right.
That is. What is additional submission requirement?
This application is incomplete for purpose of commencing review by the planning board.
Yeah.
Rather
that's what I'm saying.
Other than the applicable time period for action. Right.
Because I don't want them to fill this out. I
right.
said that it's complete and then that's, yeah.
Right. Well, this is designated as a supplement, so they can't do this as a standalone. This has to.
I wanted to clarify that. I mean.
Oh, I think that's fine too, yeah. And
I don't feel comfortable with that.
Certification stuff will be eliminated.
Yeah.
Okay.
You see.
Oh my God. Oh my God. All right, so. Yahoo! So what I would do is work with Jennifer and Stu to get the final languages for a couple of those items, mostly the environmental site assessment and anything else we saw as issues. So
Going to continue the public hearing?
continue the public hearing to, I don't know, if you guys have to tell me if you think, I don't know, the November meeting is going to be huge. I don't know if people would look at it in advance, that we could just say, do we want to approve checklist 1 through 14?
Absolutely. If we can make the changes, I think tonight everybody has agreed. Everybody's had a chance to ask questions and to make comments. So I think we're at a stage now where if we clean it up and get it, and of course, Sue, you're going to have to do all of that.
Yeah.
But clean it up based on the comments made tonight, and I'll help as much as I can.
Me too.
Then in November, at our November 10 meeting, we can deal with it very quickly. We can simply ask people, get it out well in advance so people can go through it one more time.
Right.
And then ask if there are any questions, any issues. If there are none, then we're ready for a motion to approve it.
Yeah, that's ideally what I
So
like.
I think it won't take very long at all.
Okay. All right. That's just puts on everybody to take a little bit of time to go through it again.
But everybody has to get it at least a week in advance of the meeting.
Yeah, well, we have 3 weeks till the next meeting.
Yep.
So I think that will work. So,
Yeah, and I'll look at my issues tomorrow morning first thing and
okay.
get together with both you and Jennifer.
Okay. Yeah, we'll get those cleaned up, get all the language in there, and
I'll be doing this by email, by the way,
right.
Jennifer.
Yeah. So,
So
okay, we have a motion to continue this public hearing to November 10th.
So moved.
Second.
Anybody comments, questions? Okay, I have to take a voice vote. I'm going to go by the pictures. Stu?
Yes.
Susan, yes. Dave?
Yes.
Rosemary?
Yes.
Christine?
Yes.
Okay, great. We have some attrition going on here.
Where'd everybody go?
You know, we wore them down. Okay. Okay, you guys are great. Thank you. We're all kind of running after all this. And so, before we adjourn, I just want to say, Dave, I know you're on the budget committee ballot. So
Right.
I don't know, you'll probably be here the 10th, but
Yeah, I think I will. I actually have another meeting scheduled at 7 o'clock.
all
Another
right.
Zoom at 7 for my food pantry.
No,
Dave, if you're elected to the budget committee, does that mean you have to step off the planning board?
yeah,
Yes.
Does?
yeah, because that's an elected position.
Yeah.
You know, so in case I forget on the 10th, I just want to thank you for your participation.
Yeah, I'll jump on, but it'll be later.
I'll second that too.
Yeah, for the planning board.
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I mean, he's the only one. There's like 5 spots, and you're the only one that was, right, willing to sign up this go around. To run. So I
Well,
think it's
Wow.
pretty
You
good.
sign up for something, you sign up for something.
Right. So anyway, okay.
And Madam Chair,
Yes.
can I just interject something?
Uh,
We have a site walk Saturday morning.
oh, right. Yes. 9 o'clock. 9,
Thank you.
9, oh, thanks for, yeah. So if everybody got that agenda today. So yeah, if we can, Tara was gonna try and get us a little clearer directions for where we're supposed to park. And usually these are rain or shine. I would wear boots. If you've got them, because you never know what the conditions will be in there. Tall grasses and
Hope
maybe
not.
rocky. You never know.
We got some rain today.
Yep. So, all right. Okay, so with that, I guess, is there anything else anybody has? No. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a
So moved.
motion to adjourn at 9:50.
Excellent.